morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whenever you are listening to us, we hope it is good. It's been a while since we've done that. Welcome to Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 89. As always, I'm Ray Carso in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Join my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how are you doing today?
Ray, I'm doing great. It's kind of our first show since some of the holidays, so yeah. I've got some things to show you today. I know that you have a dream to share with the audience, but before we do that, I want to share some of the gifts that I got. My brother, Alan, always says it's really easy to shop for me, and I kind of don't know what that means until the holidays roll around, but then I get a gift from him in the mail, which is this Back to the Future Transformers.
Oh, Gigawatt!
It's Gigawatt. It turns into a Transformer, right? And my brother got me this, right? And then if that wasn't enough, right, who was the president in 1989?
89?
Right.
George Bush.
You're right. Who was the president in 1988 before George Bush?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan? The actor?
Yeah.
Doc with the helmet.
That's great. That's awesome.
I mean, it's amazing. It's a pop figure. He's got the helmet on.
Yes.
You're right. I messed that up in my head. But anyway, Ronald Reagan, the actor? Yeah, look, that's Doc Brown wearing the helmet. I should have said, who's the president in 1985? That's what I should have said.
Yes, yeah.
But I was trying to make a pun with the 89 of the... Anyway. Yes. My brother, he's right. I get what he means by that now. It's pretty much Back to the Future or Star Wars, and you're pretty safe. There's a lot of Grogu's floating around. I won't bring them on camera. But, yes, doing well. Nice weather today. Excited to do this episode. Really interesting episode today where, as we predicted, the sports and geekdom segments have flipped.
The pendulum has swung back the other way, yes.
Which is good because we haven't had a good sports show in a while, and this is actually going to be a really good one. But before we get into any of that, Ray had a dream, and Ray started telling me about his dream prior to recording, and I said, whoa. This needs to probably be on the podcast the way it's going. So I had him stop, and he's going to resume. Ray, tell me about your dream last night.
So it was just a crazy dream. First off, most of my dreams always take place back in Jersey, so I'm back in Jersey going through bars. It starts off as a shady thing, and it finds out that I get chosen. I get hunted down by this secret government organization where they're working on a device to turn people into what would be their true comic book persona. And basically, they show people go in ahead of me in this device, and I'm trying to get out, of course, freaking out. And people get turned into Jesse and James from Team Rocket, and some people get turned into the Vision or whatever. And I was actually very happy because we always joked that I would be the Hulk if I were to get turned into anything, if I were going to be anything in comic books. But in my subconscious, I guess, I turned into Beast from X-Men, and I was really happy about that.
Beast from the Fox series, from the comic book series, which
from
Beast?
From the comic book, specifically, comic book cartoon X-Men, early '90s cartoon Beast. So I was actually very happy
Fox,
about it.
From Fox.
From Fox.
The Blue Beast, yes,
fully Blue Beast. Reading a book in his prison cell, but obviously I wasn't in prison or anything. And it was kind of interesting because then I kind of go out and I kind of be a superhero around Jersey. But of course, obviously bad things happen. Some people turn into villains, other people turn into heroes, and it becomes a clash. But I'm like, it was a great dream. I was the Beast, and I was just flipping around and doing acrobatics and hanging from lampposts and. Yeah,
I'm going to guess that I was not in this dream and that I was not assigned.
No, I'm afraid you weren't in the dream, buddy.
I'll have to dream about that tonight. So what I've been doing, if you've been watching this, you can see that I've been writing something down. Right, what I have done for you, because I love dreams, I have created the government organization name that is doing this. So they go. I've written it down. I'm going to tell you what it is in a minute.
Okay.
But again, I've created this fictional now government organization based on your dream. That if I'm not mistaken, is going around assigning people their comic book character, and you get to become that character, and they're drawing it out of you, right?
Right.
Ray, you were visited last night by Comic, the congressional organization manipulating inspirational comic book characters.
What?
See
Folks,
that?
Lee just did that on the spot.
I'm gonna
on the spot, literally.
The congressional organization manipulating inspirational comics.
That's
characters. Actually, I should do that. Congressional organization manipulating inspirational characters. Ray,
that's awesome.
I'm going to change that last one. Now, we're going to write a whole book about that.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
There's going to be so much copyright infringement. We'll never release it, which means we'll be dubbed fan fiction. But you're all going to read it. Let's be honest.
The fun thing is sometimes I have very vivid dreams, folks, and I tell Lee about them. And Lee is always like, I need to always write them down because they're really kind of crazy stories that I come up with.
They're pretty good. They're pretty good.
So.
Hey, listen, a lot of great stuff has come out of dreams. All right,
yeah,
like it's very cliche. was going to say crochet? Cliche. It's very cliche, but, if you can dream it, you can believe in it, right? What's that statement? If you can dream it, it can happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in a lot of that stuff. And again, look, a lot of people, if I fly in my dreams, I can't fly. How do you think the Wright brothers made a plane? I'm being honest, all right? And when I'm really into something, I dream about it a lot. And I've had some of my best ideas in a dream. Not all of them, all right? Definitely not all of them. But, sometimes the best ideas come from a dream, right?
Yeah.
Look, I remember this is going to sound funny, but it's Geeks Like Sports. I always forget I can talk about sports more than I want to on the show. But I remember when I was really playing seriously playing hockey at a high level. Mm-hmm. I remember one night I had a dream and I made a move in the dream I've never made before, right? And sure as hell, I went on the ice the next day and I could make the move, but I never would have thought to do it if I hadn't dreamed it. And it's again, pay more attention to your dreams. For those of you who say, well, I don't dream, you do, because we all do. But you probably have a mechanism blanking them out. Right? If you have nightmares, I understand that. But there's this. I'm gonna look at it. I have this poster on my wall. Yeah, this is weird. It's by Rudyard Kipling. It's my favorite poem. It's called "If." Look that up. I'm not gonna read the whole thing. But there's one line in here, Ray, that I'm looking for. And again, I have this whole poem as a poster on my wall. It says, "If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet triumph and disaster and treat those two imposters the same." Obviously, it keeps going.
Right.
The idea is if you can do all these things and keep balance, you'll be an adult, right? You'll be a superstar. But you can dream but not make dreams your master. But the Congressional Organization for Manipulating Inspirational Characters is coming for you, Ray, and we need to protect you.
Awesome.
Or no, we don't need to protect you. We need to let them show up.
Yeah, and I need to become the Beast. That'd be fantastic.
Probably Wolverine or Deadpool.
Yeah, maybe. But again, we got a big show for you, folks. We got a lot of sports stuff, like Lee mentioned. But speaking of dreams, leads us into our first topic.
This is going to be good.
Wonder Woman 84, folks. Again, it's a shorter Geek segment this week, but obviously that's the big news. Came out on Christmas.
Right.
It did pretty well even during the pandemic for the theaters in terms of financials. I think it made over $40 million, which, considering how few theaters are open right now in so few states, that actually is a lot of money.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I've heard it. I think it made $40 million over its opening weekend, which again
it would have tripled that outside the pandemic.
It easily tripled, if not quadrupled. It probably would have. Yeah, it probably would have made 150, 200 million. Yeah.
Right, and they know how many people streamed it on HBO Max too.
Yeah, the numbers were absolutely huge. They already greenlighted a third film. We're gonna get into that later. But we want to give our reviews on this film. Lee and I have somewhat differing opinions. A little bit. I think we're leaning the same way. I'm just a bit more harsh.
That's fair.
Yeah, just a little bit. Do you want me to rant, or do you want to go first?
Well, I do.
Lee?
I want you to rant. I want you to go first because the audience is waiting for it. We do need to say this, though. This is a spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoilers.
If you have not seen Wonder Woman 84, we are going to dissect it pretty heavily. So major spoiler alert that if you want to see it, you should skip over this portion of the episode. But make sure you come back because Ray is going to lose his mind because he's done it twice, which means that this is the best one coming. Caitlin, who is our wonderful producer and edits these episodes, it is now time for the Ray rant loading because it's about to happen. Ray was, and again, not taking any thunder here, Ray was not pleased with this movie.
No.
And I'm going to allow him to explain why right now.
So I almost feel like we should preface this that sometimes, understandably so, going into a movie, we have certain expectations, and when those expectations are not met, we think the movie is subpar. Or if we have low expectations and it does better than that, then we think the movie is great.
Right.
Understandably, I had not high, but I had some fair expectations of this film after the first film. I very much enjoyed the first Wonder Woman. I felt that alongside Man of Steel, it's probably been the best of the Snyderverse, honestly, this far.
If not the best, to be fair.
Right. No, completely. They're definitely 1, 2, however you rank them, I think, in my opinion.
Right.
That said, this is a categorically, doesn't matter my expectations, this is a categorically bad film on myriad levels. And I'm going to explain why. So, the reason why this is a bad film, first off, the movie is way too long. It is 30 to 40 minutes too long. Watching this the first time through, I'm like, I can cut this scene, cut this scene, cut this scene. I knew we were in trouble. Another great way to know if you're in trouble with a movie, folks, is how often you check your watch at the theater. Well, obviously you can't do that at home, but I can press pause and see where I'm at. And 10 minutes into this movie, I'm already like, oh my God, I have 2 hours and 20 more minutes of this. What's happening? Why is it so slow? Why? From the first scene, this movie is already talking down to us, which is the DC way nowadays, and treating us like idiots. And I don't know if they just did the whole flashback in Themyscira, which, by the way, you don't go back to for the whole rest of the movie. So I don't know why you do that at all. If you just wanted to get Robin Wright in Amazonian armor for 5 more minutes, which I understand, not a problem. But, like, it felt needless. Not to mention, you make Wonder Woman look like a whiny, entitled brat by having this 11-year-old kid complaining, but I'm in a competition with all these fully grown Amazons, and I'm the queen's daughter, and I should have won. From that moment, I get they're trying to teach a lesson, which, of course, you also know right at the beginning is going to come back full circle in the end. Because, again, like, you can't just let a moment stand on its own. Her speech at the end of the movie was strong enough and powerful enough that it did not need that cute little nod at the beginning of the film. Again, that whole Themyscira scene, unnecessary. Waste of time. And it also sets a bad tone. Again, it was a relatively slow, even though it's basically Amazon Ninja Warrior, it was a slow scene to me for 10 minutes. It took too long just to get to the point of, well, the truth is the strongest thing. It's all about the truth.
So, Ray, I want to ask you.
Yeah.
An honest question, right?
Yeah.
Do you want me to comment on these one at a time, or do you want me to let you get through the whole thing and come back?
That's up to you. If you want me to be, if it's a proper rant, I'm just going to keep going. But if you want to jump in.
Well,
let me know.
Here's the deal. And again,
I don't mind that
I don't mind that our listeners are, because I think you're going to rant no matter what.
Right.
But I do want to have a little back and forth here because I actually agree with you on this point. Mm-hmm. Again, this is your last chance. Spoiler alert, because I'm about to spoil something. All right. I agree with you that scene was not needed. Yeah. I think what they should have done. All right, because look, the first scene, it's like the first chapter or first words of a book. It's an invitation. It's almost a, what's it called? Like when you sign a document. It's a contract between you and the viewer and the reader. Like, this is what this is about, right? And like we knew from the start, okay, this is about the truth and telling the truth, right? Yeah. I think what would have been a more powerful opening and would have even enhanced the character that I didn't mind too much would be if it was Max Lord's history with his father. Which they show at the very end of the movie, because then you would have created sympathy for Max Lord right away, and then he becomes a tragic villain. Right? Which he doesn't appear as till the very end of the film.
Yes.
So I think that his upbringing, which I think a lot of people may have related with, would have said this is a very damaged person whose father did not love him. There was no trust.
Yeah. And there was no trust, right? There was no truth. I mean, and the thing is look, I'm going to get into Max Lord. And also I'm going to say...
Go ahead. That's all I had to say about that.
I'm going to say right from the beginning, I think all the actors did a great job. I will say that I thought Pedro Pascal stole the show as Max Lord. I thought Kristen Wiig was great as Cheetah. Gal Gadot is still fantastic. Chris Pine was very funny, was very fun. Totally... most of these problems, it's writing and content. So I'm going to get right off the bat. I thought the actors did great. And we're going to get into some of the more powerful scenes with Pedro later on.
We're not criticizing performance. We are not criticizing any performances. The performances were actually I agree with you. They're quite good. I thought
the performances were great. I thought all the actors did a really, really solid job. Again, it's a superhero film. I get where you're coming from. You also could have just started the film in the mall scene with Wonder Woman being amazing and badass.
I totally agree with you on that. And again, it is a classic movie mistake of, like you said it, treating the audience like they're dumb.
Yes.
And saying, hi, kids. Today's topic is truth and why you should always tell the truth. Young Diana didn't tell the truth. And that was bad.
Yeah, it just... Right? And this seems to be a common thing with DC. And the worst part is that not only do you set that theme up in the very beginning, but then DC... This is something that DC's done a lot, and you didn't get that in the first Wonder Woman film that much, is they beat you over the head with the same themes over and over and over again. You even have one point... So at this point now, the whole idea is... The whole concept is that basically they find an antique. Diana works at the Smithsonian. They They find an antique that basically we find out later is called the Dreamstone, which, look, I'm not going to criticize them taking some liberties with the comic book material. The Dreamstone, obviously, in comics is very, very different. And actually, I think what they did was, which I thought was weird, which is something that is a pet peeve of mine, but like I can forgive it a little bit, is they combined the Max Lord character with Dr. Destiny from the comics. Dr. Destiny, who uses the Dreamstone, a longtime villain of the Justice League, along with Max Lord. It felt to me, I kept watching this, I'm like, this is Crimson Dynamo combined with Whiplash in Iron Man 2. And in fact, actually, much like Iron Man 2, which to me was kind of meh, like, that's how I kind of felt about Wonder Woman. I felt it made a lot of the same mistakes. You know what the other mistake it made was? It made the Cheetah the Riddler from Batman Forever. That's another mistake.
I called that.
You did. You did. Credit to you,
said that was
Lee.
going to happen. Yeah.
But the worst part is that they didn't let gave Kristen Wiig. They actually gave the villains very few moments to shine, which I think is also a mistake in a sequel comic book film. The first film, it's the origin story. It's the setup. The focus is on the hero. But a lot of heroes are only good as their villains. And this, to me, the fact that they didn't focus on Max Lord and Cheetah enough made me feel like they didn't think the villains were strong enough to help carry this film, which I completely disagree with, because my favorite scene in the film is when Cheetah and Max Lord is on the helicopter going to the island at the end of the film, and Max Lord turns to her and he's like, "She already made a wish, huh?" Like, it reminded me of Penguin and Catwoman from Batman Returns. It felt like there was a lot of chemistry there that you only get in the last half hour of the movie. It was wasted that you don't have the two big villains team up earlier.
Absolutely agree with you on that. And they are together early. That's the other funny part about it.
Yes.
Like, they meet very early on in the film.
Yes, in fact, Cheetah is integral to Max Lord getting the Dreamstone. I mean, Barbara Minerva, obviously I'm just using her supervillain name, but she doesn't become Cheetah till the very end. She's Minerva the most of the film. But the thing is yes, it's like they should have been together more. They had such great chemistry on screen, and you don't see it again after then until the scene in the fight scene in the White House, which again was also probably the best fight scene because I liked it even more than the end fight scene with Cheetah and Wonder Woman, because you also had Chris Pine there, and it felt like you had a real dichotomy: Chris Pine and versus Max Lord, Cheetah versus Wonder Woman. You had it even. I thought I thought that was really well done. That scene in particular, not much else. Simon Stagg was wasted. They wasted one of the most iconic evil corporate characters.
That's a great point. Some of maybe the less astute comic book readers might not know this, but Stagg Industries is humongous in that world. And they just kind of made him this kind of Ponzi guy, which was weird, or maybe an honest guy, but again, that was them saying, "Oh, look, we used the character from the comics.
Yeah,
we put him in." I'm like, this guy's a multi Luthor level organization.
Yeah.
Right?
He's
Luthor
responsible
level
for the creation of Metamorpho. He's a constant thorn in the side of heroes throughout DC history, and you wrote him off. So as a comic fan, as a deep cut, that bothered me.
I got to say on this too. Follow me here, all right? I understand sometimes referencing major characters like that is kind of a nod, but that's not what this was. And usually the nods are, maybe this character comes in the future, or maybe they're growing to be bigger in the future. We've seen that. We're going to talk about Marvel in a little bit. Marvel has, a lot of people don't realize this, Marvel has introduced characters that are going to play major roles in some of these TV shows. I'll give you an example. We'll talk about it later, Ray. But in WandaVision, a major character from, I shouldn't say major. In WandaVision, a character that was introduced in Captain Marvel is going to be in that show. Yeah. Keeping in mind this is 20, 30 years after Captain Marvel takes place, so I'm not going to tell you what it is yet. But that's how you do it well, right? You mention it, they may show up, they may not. This again, the equivalent of this, Ray, would be like, "Oh, look, it's Lex Luthor," and then moving on, right?
Right, exactly.
You know?
Like,
there's Lex Luthor.
Exactly. And I think that's it's sad that that's how it worked. And I think I'll also say that Stagg, because he's older and this is 1984, that means that probably in the current Snyderverse, he's dead.
Yeah.
So he's not around. So you've, again, wasted one of these.
What they'll do is his son is alive. That's
exactly. They'll pass it along. It'll be Simon Stagg Jr. or some cheap garbage. And it'll just
Simone Stagg.
Right. It just, if they go with the woman. Right. Exactly. It's just like, but again, I mean, the film beats it's a dead horse in terms of its themes. I mean, there's even one point where Chris Pine even says, "Oh, it's the monkey paw."
Yeah.
It's the monkey paw. Like, literally, because the whole idea is that all these wishes
Right.
that people are making are bad. It's greed is bad and all this other stuff. Which, by the way, to steal a line from George Carlin, coveting thy neighbor's goods is what keeps the economy going, folks. So greed isn't all, and not Gordon Gekko, he says greed is good. It's not always good. It's not always bad either, though.
No, right.
So, I mean, I think that that's the thing with this film is that it tries to be very heavy-handed with its themes and its tones. I mean, even some of the symbolism, which I completely get what she's going with women empowerment and whatnot, where Cheetah takes her abuser and slams him to the side of the truck. Right. The truck, of course, is Big Al's pig farm. Like, okay, I get it. Like, I get the symbol. Yeah. I get it, right? Like, but it's a good message. But again, constantly beating your audience over the head with the same thing over and over again and treating us like we're idiots. It's demeaning. One of my favorite things, a very subtle thing at the beginning when they first come to the Dreamstone is that one professor or doctor or scientist who grabs the stone and he's like, "I wish I had a cup of coffee." And then he walks off and the guy gives him a cup of coffee. He's like, "Oh, this is great." And then he burns his tongue. He's like, "Oh, this is hot. That hurt." Yeah. Right there is the subtlety that this film needed more of. Right? Where it's like even a slight cup of coffee, it's a simple wish. It's a stupid wish, but even that literally burns you. Right? And they continued they just upped it in the worst ways possible over and over and over again. To the point where, again, a lot of times they had to write their way out with just Deus Ex Machinas over and over again, which is the other big problem I had with this film, which is just tons and tons of convenient bull. Yeah. Like,
totally.
Oh my God. So, I mean, like, my favorite, the big one, is where they still don't understand what's going on with the wishes and the Dreamstone and all this other stuff. And Minerva, when she's still good, is working with Diana, and she's doing all this research and all this other stuff. And she's like, "I've been to every federal archive. I've been to the FBI, the CIA. But hey, I found this flyer at the market of this guy at the back of a record store who says he's a Mayan expert. You think this is going to work?" Then they go and they meet this guy named Baba Jeed. By the way, I think Baba Jeed was the most interesting character in the freaking film half the time. And Baba Jeed's like, "Yeah, man, it's like my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was Mayan or whatever, but like here I am, the back of a record shop with my Simon & Garfunkel records. But like, hey, I got this giant tomb that literally gives you the whole script of the film right here." And he plops it down on a table, and he's like, "Oh yeah, here it is." And literally in 3 sentences, Diana reads it and explains the whole thing. And it's like, wow, wasn't that convenient? And by the way, she mentions Dalos, which is the Greek equivalent of Loki, for those of you who aren't familiar. It's the Greek god of mischief.
Yeah, it's a different. So we have to. It is a different god than Loki, but it's Loki.
It's basically Loki.
All right, they weren't stealing. It's Greek gods and Roman gods are very similar, but also very different. And I had to say that.
No, for sure. And if you were going to go that route, because again, Ares was the main villain of the first film,
right?
Why wouldn't you, if you're going to go that route and blame this on a Greek god, why would you not have the Greek god ever actually appear in the film?
Well, and maybe that's another open they flirted with and didn't make.
Yeah, I mean, I get you don't want to suddenly cram this full of villains. I completely get that. But the first film worked so well, and this one you kind of got away from what made the first one work so well. And I think, again, it just felt like it's super freaking convenient. Like, even, and again, now we're going to get into Pedro Pascal. Like, everything about this film felt convenient in terms of every major beat. We get.
Well, I mean, there's more than just that, right? Like,
yeah. Oh, we're gonna get. I got a list.
Okay, all right, good. Because I'm like, there's a few more I have, and I'm like, whoa, this was a problem for me.
Like, first off, so they find that Max Lord has gone to Cairo because, again, his big thing is he's trying to get all the world's oil before he goes to the next level of I want the world, right? Which is a very Max Lord thing from the comics, where he wants to be in control of everything.
It's like don't be message. Try to tell it oil is bad. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, it just exactly again, oil, the message after message, and even that. By the way, the wish of the prince of the of Cairo of Egypt, that basically the other thing is also he wishes for his country to go back under his control, what he feels is his land, and basically they build a giant wall rises up and everybody accepts that he's the king because that's his wish. And basically, it's just saying, like...
Convenient.
Yeah, also not only convenient, but also, like, it's bad if you cut yourself off from the world. This is a bad thing,
well,
right?
I'm going to tell you this, too. I guarantee you they justified that in the writing room with, like, well, we're talking about gods, and, like, Moses parted the sea, so this isn't that unbelievable.
Right. Yeah. No,
right?
That's what it felt like. It felt very much... It felt like a very biblical kind of thing.
But that's what it looked like. Just saying. Go ahead.
Like, but for them to get there... They need to find a jet. Well, where are they going to go to this? Now, in this, I did look up. The Smithsonian does have a airstrip very close
I've been
to
there.
it.
I have been there.
Yeah,
yes.
because
it's
that's how
awesome.
you get the planes and the space shuttle and other things. That's how you typically go there. So Diana uses her access to get to the plane. Why are all the planes on the tarmac in the museum fully fueled and ready to go at a moment's notice?
Okay.
That would never happen in real life, ever.
Just to keep this realistic, there is so at that Smithsonian, which is in Virginia, okay, there is an actual airstrip, right? So like, I want to make sure because I falsely thought the other day like there's no airstrip there. Then I remember there is actually a tower and an airstrip there. I don't know how active that airstrip is.
Right. Well,
but
to
there is
my
a place
knowledge,
to
it's
take off.
really just for when they're having things flown, like specific things.
Yes, it's for arrivals, departures of the stuff that's there, and it's also used for air shows, right? But I have a problem believing there's a fully functional tower there 24 hours a day.
Yes.
I could be wrong. I can look that up.
Yeah, and Diana completely forgets about radar, and she conveniently forgets about the 4th of July. For this like unnecessary scene through the fireworks.
Totally right. Oh yeah, it's the 4th.
Like
keeping in mind too, to be fair.
And some of this stuff is minor, but I want to go back to the fact that when you keep asking us to suspend belief again and again and again and again and again, some of that is okay in a comic book movie. When you ask it too much of the audience, it makes little things like this seem much, much worse because you've already asked so much of your audience in terms of suspending belief. Again, you've asked your audience to come along with you so far, already at this point of the movie, that by the time this happened, about the midway point of the movie, I had already checked out. I was done after 40. I watched the whole thing, but after 40 minutes, I felt like it was torture. I felt like it was Clockwork Orange, and I had to keep watching. And I'm like, I don't want to watch anymore. But I got it for Geeks Who Like Sports, but I don't want to watch anymore. Like, and it's just like,
work.
Yeah, it just it just drove me nuts. But like, I mean, and then even that, like, another thing, the gold armor that she gets was super convenient. Like, that's something that you might want to show more of at the beginning of the film, where it's just like, yeah, there's this great warrior called Asteria, and I couldn't find her, but I found her armor, and here it is in brown wrapping paper.
Again, here's another one. So they do tease her at the beginning of the film, all right?
Yeah.
But I would have rather have seen a cutback or a flashback of how she got the armor and who Asteria was.
Yes!
Right there at that point.
Yes.
I conveniently found her armor.
Yeah, like, it's just like... Everything about this. Oh, and then another convenient reference. The president, when he's talking to Maxwell Lord again.
Yes.
We're bouncing all over him. We're bouncing.
We got to refer to him. We will refer to him as President, not Ronald Reagan.
Yes, President, not Reagan. Yes, I love that. Reagan. And I know we're bouncing all over the film, but two things. First off, he's like, "Oh, we have another space program we're putting. It's like the Star Wars program, but it's not." And I'm like, first off, if you're young enough, you don't know what the Star Wars space program even is. So that reference is going to go over half your audience's head. Secondly, why not just use the space program that's already there? Why talk about making one that's just like it, but specifically for this other thing? Again, just a super convenient plot point. We are making, again, with 45 minutes left in the film, we've made a brand new communication system that's going to reach every person in the world if we need to.
Not just reach them, Ray. It can touch them.
That's
a very important part of this, because the whole thing about that stone was you had to be touching the person to use it. Right? Yeah. Now, they did try and explain that. And there's probably a metaphor there for like social media today.
Social media, television.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. But now I do have to interject here because this was my prediction that they were going to use the Batman Forever Riddler, the box.
Yeah.
To influence people, and that's exactly what this was.
Yeah, it was
exactly what it was.
It's reaching people through television. It's the exact same thing,
and mesmerizing them.
Exactly.
And taking something from it. It's the same movie.
Yeah,
I knew it was gonna happen.
It's basically there's so many beats that are similar, and then also
Max
by the
Lord
way,
is literally a Two-Face.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. It's unbelievable. Also, the president, by the way, where he's like.
Reagan.
Yeah, President, not Reagan, where it's like, what do you wish for, Mr. President? And I said, before he even said it, I'm like, he's not going to wish for world peace, but he should wish for world peace.
Right.
And the fact that by the end of the movie, everybody in the world gets a wish, and nobody wishes for world peace. Everybody just keeps wishing for nukes. Talk about, again, heavy-handed with the message here. I mean, even you got the guys in the Middle East asking for nukes. You got people in Russia asking for nukes.
And everybody understands English now, by the way, too. That's another convenient thing.
Yes, and I also, by the way, I love that. And the president, he's like, I want more nukes. Yeah. I want more nukes.
I thought that was a low blow too. I thought that was a little bit of a low blow politically.
It's also
I don't want to get into that.
Stupid.
I'm just saying it's a low blow. It's a commentary, and it's like I actually believe. Okay, people are gonna have to swallow this one, but I don't believe any president would wish for that.
No.
Any president.
Even at the height of the Cold War, no.
Right. Even at the height of 2020, I don't think any president would wish for that. And again, that's just old school comic book level stuff, which we'll get into. But go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, no, it just it was.
Ray, what would you wish for? What would you? I'll tell you this right now. So again, we got to analyze this a tiny bit because the people that are getting the wishes don't know the full extent of what happens with the wishes.
Right, that they have to give up something in return.
Right. So with that, again, I'm playing a little bit of that devil's advocate. That would make me believe that a large portion of the planet would wish for something greedy, but not everyone. No. I said this to Ray that night. I said, Mother Teresa is still alive.
Yeah.
in 1989. There's a lot of great people alive in 1984. Excuse me. There's a lot of great human beings alive there.
Yeah.
Right. You think she's voting? I mean, she's not wishing for that. Yeah. Right. I mean, look. There's a lot of people that are just in need at that time. I don't know. That was too much suspension of belief that everyone in the world is evil.
Right.
All right. And again, the idea too is that you have to give something up. We'll get into that too, because there's a lot of artistic license with that side of it.
Yeah, because it seemed like it, depending on what it was, like a lot of people gave up certain things, but like it was never very even in certain things. Like I mean, Max is constantly giving his health.
At one point, Max Lord is just kind of like taking what he feels like taking, and like so they tell us you get this, but it takes away your greatest strength. That's kind of how the way they explained it.
Right.
And then at some point in the movie, he just starts choosing what someone's greatest strength is.
Right. Well, exactly. In order to keep himself alive, he starts taking people's health. Then he starts gifting it. That was the other weird thing where he's like, I'm gonna give Cheetah, or I'm gonna give her. I'm gonna give her rage. I'm gonna give her fury and all this other stuff when he's taking everybody's wishes to keep himself
Apex
going.
Predator, yeah.
Yeah, make her an it was just
which by the way, she wasn't.
Right. The Cheetah is not the Apex Predator.
Because Wonder Woman beat her, making her the Apex Predator.
Which also, that fight scene there at the end was also disappointing because it was so predictable. Because as soon as all the electrical wires started to fall, I'm like, oh, she's going to electrocute her. Like, she's going to electrocute her.
Well, and that, which didn't kill her, which was weird. But here's the other thing, too. You got to think, anytime you make movies like this, and again, I will give them a pass on this, but I think about it. Mm-hmm. Clark Kent is alive at this time. Not Superman yet, but he's alive. What did he wish for?
Yeah.
Right? Ben Affleck. Bruce Wayne is alive. I know exactly what he's wishing for.
His parents, yeah.
Right. It's like, and maybe he got them back just for them to die again.
Well, I mean, that's the other thing,
that would be a twist, right? Why'd you say that name?
Also, does everybody not remember this? Was everyone after
That's the thing that beat me up at the end.
After Max... So basically the end of the movie is Max renounces everything. He puts everything back to normal because, again, he basically made himself the genie of the lamp, right? That's basically the whole plot of the movie.
It was Aladdin, too.
It's basically, it's Aladdin meets Batman Forever, which no one needed. And And he puts everything back. So everybody just conveniently forgets everything that happened.
Right.
Like, it was weird. Also, they gave him a son, which is fine. He doesn't have a son in the comics or anything like that. But kid, you want to talk about a convenient plot device? That kid's sole purpose was literally to be a redeeming device because, again, and this is something that bothers me with certain comic book films in general, Cheetah is a tragic villain, right? Mr. Freeze is a tragic villain. Penguin, there are plenty of tragic villains across DC, and obviously Cheetah is probably one of Wonder Woman's. Max Lord is just a bad dude. You could have had him just be a bad dude and had Wonder Woman actually beat him. But you had to do this, again, where it got so preachy, where she wraps the lasso of truth around his ankle and she puts the truth out to the world. You all need to renounce your wish because it's all about the truth and all you have is the truth. And it's like, no, you know what I want? I just want a comic book movie. I just want a comic book movie. That's the truth.
Message.
Patty, the only other good thing that Patty Jenkins did was the Chris Pine scene where he's acclimating to the future.
That was fun.
That was a lot of fun.
That was
and
fun.
I think it shows what her strength is, which is why the first Wonder Woman was so good. It's a fish out of water story again.
Right, but reversed.
It's just a role reversal, but it was a ton of fun. Him going through the wardrobe, messing up thinking the trash can was art, freaking out on the escalator. That was just a fun segment, a fun sequence.
Right, and listen, this is what was masterful about that scene is we're talking about a time period that's almost 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so I love that they took. And this is hard to me as a writer, okay? So they took someone from World War I, so the late teens, right? Place them in 84 and somehow make people watching this in 2020 look at 1984 as fresh and new.
Yeah.
I love that. Especially if you were alive around that time or you lived through the 80s in some form. Yeah. It's fun to see someone out of Water Ray, as you said, from that time period, the early 1900s to the 80s, and seeing the 80s as this is amazing, which we don't do enough today.
Yeah, and I love the little
I do want to reiterate, real quick, PSA, that almost everyone has a device in their pocket that can teach you anything.
Yeah.
Unlimited information in your pocket. So we'll talk about people not appreciating technology enough.
Yeah.
We all have, I think Elon Musk, I'm not going to go on a rant here myself, but Elon Musk had said about college, he thinks it's overrated. If you want to have a great time, it's a good place to go. It's a fun place to go. Yeah. But he goes, you can get an entire education for free today. And he's right. It just takes willpower and accountability, something this movie did not have. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean,
go ahead, Ray.
And it also goes back to other convenient stuff, by the way. Chris Pine, a pilot from 1918, 1919, knowing how to fly an F-14 jet to Cairo.
Highly,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, too convenient.
Are you kidding me?
It would not be possible.
And of course, also the other two big things is that Diana, I get that she's a goddess. I get that she's a superhero. Suddenly she's like, I did this once over the past 50 years, but I've always been trying to figure out how my dad Zeus made a whole island invisible. I'm going to learn how to make this jet invisible to everything, including radar, in 30 seconds. Oh, and then later on, I'm going to take one line you say, and that's going to inspire me to learn how to fly. What?
Right.
What?
I'm not as mad about that as you are, but that's fair.
That was a lot.
No, I'm going to counter you on the flying thing, but that's okay.
The flying, okay.
I want you to finish your rant.
The flying thing, fine. I'll give him the flying thing but the invisible jet thing, like that, you're getting a little too cute there.
That didn't bother me too much. That didn't bother me as much as it bothered you. But we'll get into it. I'll have my time to come back.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm just trying to think like what else because there's so much that I just.
Well, what about the after credits scene? What did you think about that?
That was great. Right, where so again after credits scene they make Asteria still around. They hint that she's still alive, but obviously she's older, and they make her Linda Carter, which is obviously a throwback, a nod to the original Wonder Woman on television in the 70s. It's a really cute after credits scene. I appreciate that nod. I like stuff like that. I thought that was great. I thought that was very tastefully done.
I agree. That was a nice way to end the film. You didn't feel completely horrible.
Yes.
After seeing that.
Yeah, and then the other one last thing.
Go ahead.
I hate that they basically the other big thing about this story was a lot of the film when Diana makes her wish to bring back Steve Trevor, she starts losing her powers.
Right.
my thought was, and we've seen this before in comic books in particular, Superman having to overcome without his powers, Batman not having his access to his technology. Like, we've seen this before. I thought they were going to do the thing again where you had this dichotomy between Max and Steve and Cheetah and Diana, that she was going to put the armor on that was going to allow her to overcome temporarily and to get her powers back, because at the end you know she's going to have to sacrifice Steve once you realize that him being there is basically not killing her but basically making her human, right? Sacrificing her godhood to bring somebody back from the dead, which, by the way, wasn't bringing him back from the dead. His spirit inhabited another dude's body, which, again, also super weird.
And unexplained, by the way.
Not explained at all.
Right. Because nobody else would wish for a loved one to come back.
Yeah, it was really, exactly. That was really terribly done. But then he just disappears. Like, they finally come to the thing and he's like, I'm already gone. And she runs away. Her wounds heal, which was really cool. You get the moment when her power is back. But I would have preferred him staying with her until the end, and again having that 2-on-2 battle. And again,
I do not agree with you on this. Just so you know, I do not agree with you on this. But please finish.
But I would have, because that's what I thought they were setting up, and I would have preferred, again, if you're gonna go that whole way with her having to overcome without her powers, finish it. Go the whole way with it.
I don't agree with you on that.
I get that people didn't want to, not necessarily everybody wanted to see that. But
no, it's not that.
It felt like they bailed out of their original script in the middle.
I don't. I actually thought that was one of the more powerful parts of the film, and I'll tell you why now, and then I'm going to jump into my counter to all of your stuff. Okay. It was uncomfortable, but I liked that because I think the more powerful was that Diana had to give up what she cared about in order to save the world, for lack of a better statement here.
I like that didn't happen. Like when they did it.
I like when they did it because it was the most painful point to do it. Had she done that after everything was fine, it wouldn't have made sense. So my point is that his death again, and I actually like the way that they do that, is that she forces herself away from him and walks away because it's too painful to face him. Right. And he gets to say, I love you, which I don't know if they ever said that in the first movie. And she whispers, I love you too, and then says, I rescind my wish. Right. And then you see her become all powerful again. And that is when she learns how to fly. Right. Which, for those of you listening that don't know Wonder Woman, the original Wonder Woman in the comics couldn't fly. She could fly later during Infinite Crisis or Infinite, I think it was Infinite Crisis or Infinite Earths, whatever. She does learn how to fly eventually.
Yeah, post-crisis.
Right. And the fly scene does show that she does rely on her lasso to kind of create some aerodynamics. She doesn't fly like Superman, but she can fly.
She rides the lightning, which is also another thing that's in the comics,
awesome.
Which is cool.
Yeah.
Which is
I did
cool.
love that.
By the way, there was also a couple of fun scenes where she catches a bullet with the lasso.
Right.
A bit unnecessary. It kind of reminded me.
I think they're trying to show the power of the lasso. And they did that as a tool. It's not a weak weapon. I think that's what they were trying to do.
I already thought it wasn't a weak weapon. I think
you know that from the comics. Like again, we got to remember there's two audiences here, right? There's the nerds like us, and then there's people who it's just a comic book movie. But listen, just going back to Steve Trevor real quick, all right? Because I don't want to lose that. All right, his death or him going back to being dead, is a very powerful moment. It's the hardest decision of the film by far.
Right.
That was much harder for her than it was for Max Lord to say, I want to be a good dad again.
Right.
All right. And it spawns her to learn to fly. It very much made me think of, and I think this was intentionally done. It very much made me think of Superman 1 when Lois dies, spoiler alert, and Superman takes off to the sky and learns how to spin the earth back around. So it was, no, seriously, as stupid as that scene is now, it was that kind of moment. And when she's in the clouds, again, Superman 1, you hear Jor-El talking to Superman. Even you know you are one of them. You will never be one of them, right? And you hear Steve say about how to fly, and that's when to me, that was a powerful moment. It was not convenient, which is one of the few times in the film it was not convenient, that forced her to make the hardest decision that no one else on the planet could make, henceforth leading by example. Had she done that after everybody else, that would have been too convenient. It would have been very out of place. Why would she have done it? Why would she have rescinded her wish if everybody's already doing it?
Yeah.
So, again, she had to make that decision for the planet, for lack of a better reason, to show the power that it takes to do that. I thought that was in line with the film. I didn't mind that scene. I got to be honest with you. I thought that was actually well done. It was uncomfortable. It was painful. You felt for her, right? You could see the rage in her eyes after that when her powers come back.
Yeah.
I thought that was well done. That was a pretty cool scene to me.
That's fair. My only other thing with the lasso catching, it just felt like the Brandon Routh getting shot in the eye moment. That it was kind of unnecessary for just showing off special effects.
Oh, there was a lot of unnecessary stuff in this movie. Let me get into some of the things that you
Yeah, I'm pretty much done.
Basically,
to sum things up, DC talks down to its audience and treats us like a bunch of idiots. Way too many convenient things to just get the plot moving forward. Totally, and the movie was probably 35 to 40 minutes too long. I just wrapped up a 40-minute rant in about 30 seconds. So, speaking about going too long, Lee,
I won't be that long. Okay, so I think the difference between you and I is that you went into this film with a different mentality. I go into all DC films, and Ray, I am suggesting this for you. I go into all DC films thinking we've got some good actors that are going to be appearing in a hot mess. So I expected a film like this. All right, I really did. It doesn't mean I loved it. It doesn't mean it was great, but I went in expecting a DC film.
Yeah.
Okay. We also have to keep in mind this was filmed, edited, done before all of this modern day DC news of the multiverse and Michael Keaton, like all these things we're really excited for right now.
Yeah.
This movie was done way before those things were announced.
I do want to get into the fact that this was an old guard movie before a lot of the changes that are going on at DC happening.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I also think that I have a little more wiggle room here for the how do you say it? The disbelief, right? Mm-hmm. DC films have been doing this for all time. This one doesn't go too far away. So while I don't like that they got the answer out of a guy in a record shop, that's very DC thing to do. All right. Now, with that said, in that scene, the one where they find out everything about which god it is, I don't know why, and this is my rant now, or my problem with it. There's a scene earlier on where she sees the rock that the stone was placed in, where she sees the rating of the gods inside the holder. I don't know why they didn't use that scene to say, oh my God, it's this god. This is what he's doing. That's really bad.
Yeah.
Right. That wouldn't have changed the film for me. It's just, we have to stop him. Mm-hmm. Right. And then there could have been a great flashback there of that god. Right. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I didn't need that 30-minute walk through the woods to find that out. That's where they could have cut a lot of time. Yeah. Don't know why they did it. Not in the writer's room, whatever. Yeah. All right. But I first and foremost, I went into this film expecting a film like that. Okay. Things I'm trying to go through all the things that you went through in my head. I didn't mind the invisible jet scene. I thought it was cute, right? If you're a traditionalist, I can see why that would make everybody upset. It's way too convenient that he knows how to fly a jet. There's no way he would be able to do that. But I thought the story about her making a coffee cup invisible and then losing it, that was cute. It stays in light. I didn't mind that scene. I just didn't. The action scenes I thought were actually pretty good. The White House scene, there was that chase in the desert, which was good. By the way, very convenient that an F-15 could just fly to Cairo out of nowhere.
They fly to Cairo and then they get the taxi the rest of the way.
Taxi, right? I did enjoy that scene where she's losing her powers and you can see it, but she's still fighting through.
Yeah.
In terms of the fight scene in the White House, which I think is maybe the most powerful scene in the film outside of Steve Trevor dying again.
Yeah. Again, we're in agreement. I love the White House fight scene.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the you know what the coolest part of that scene was when Cheetah defeats Diana and she's sitting up against the wall defeated. And I remember looking at Gal Gadot in that scene and like she's defeated and it takes guts in a superhero film to show a hero like that completely defeated. You don't see that. If you really think about that in superhero films, you don't see that. There's usually this moment where they rise back up and they come out of nowhere. She's defeated, and it shows, right? And that precedes obviously her wishing Trevor away again, right? But overall, because like I said, I don't want to go too long into this. Far too many convenient plot points. It was very annoying. In terms of the action, I was okay with the action scenes. I thought they did those well. And again, I expected a film like this. It sounds like a lot of people were expecting a Marvel film. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say this again. I'm not speaking so much for you here, Ray. All right. Again, remember, Ray and I are deep into comicology. We're deep into canon. We know this stuff. I don't expect that from DC movies anymore. Yeah. They are not Marvel level films. We have to stop going to see DC films with the expectation of a Marvel level film. That's number one for me. Number two, this is just straight up in line with every DC film we've seen. I would say it's not the best one. It's not the worst one. I've seen worse DC films in the modern era than this. Okay, it did stay with the character. I said this too. these are great actors in a hot mess.
Yeah.
I thought, one of the fun things for me was seeing Pedro Pascal, who were all like, that's the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
There's the Mandalorian. And different accent, completely different range.
Yeah.
He was not the Mandalorian in any way in this film.
Yeah.
Now, what do I mean by that is you're expecting like some similarities because you see this character. He was really good in this movie, especially when he's going crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really, really good.
He was, yeah.
Right?
He showed a lot of weakness here, and also again,
Right.
Another great thing was, as much as I didn't like that his kid was basically again a convenient device to snap him out of his wish-making revelry. His speech at the end, very powerful.
To his son.
Very well
Right.
done.
Agreed.
Very emotional.
Had they made that scene in the beginning, like I said, him again, because they show him and his father doing that scene.
Yeah.
They could have done that earlier. That could have been the main message is, hey, tell the truth, but more importantly, love your kids. That would have been a better message. Yeah. But again, look, this is also a DC thing, right? Like Superman, truth, justice, the American way, right? Truth, these kind of elemental beings of life. Marvel doesn't do that so much.
Yeah.
Right? Marvel always does this in a subtle way. Like Captain America is the best example of that, right? He's all about truth and justice. He's Superman in Marvel. You never hear him say it. It's through his actions.
Yeah.
But DC has never had a problem being, even in Justice, I know we're getting a recut here. Justice League, I believe in truth and justice. I mean, people made fun of that, and it's silly. That's the most Superman thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what he does. DC is not Marvel. It's also why it's never translated well to film. Now, with that said, the one DC film that, in my opinion, was Marvel level was Man of Steel. And I loved Man of Steel. I love that film. I'm a big fan of Man of Steel. You know what's funny about it, Ray? A lot of DC fan people hated that film. Yeah. Which blows my mind because that's what they want to see. They want to see a Marvel level dark film, right? I shouldn't speak for everybody. I can already hear some people out here. That's not what I want to see. Do tell us what you want to see. I know we have a lot of DC fans that listen to the show. Please tell me what you want to see. All right? But I loved Man of Steel. I thought that was right on par with the Marvel films, right? I think also, just really quick, X-Men First Class was on par with the Marvel films. Not all the X-Men movies have done that. Keeping in mind, I know it's kind of a totally different universe within Marvel. X-Men First Class was a Marvel level film.
And I would say Days of Future Past, too.
I love Days of Future Past. That's easily my favorite X-Men film, by the way. Yeah. But that, to me, that's not on par with Marvel films. That's a standalone, phenomenal X-Men film. That's how I looked at it. Kind of like the original Spider-Man. Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire. I don't know if that's because here's the thing, the disbelief on that. Again, I'm gonna digress if I'm not careful. So, my point again, this movie to me follows exactly what DC is, and I don't know why people keep getting disappointed when they're expecting something else. I don't know what people want. I know what they don't want. Wait. I know what they don't want, and it's exactly the things that you described. Don't want stupid, convenient plot points.
Yes.
All right. You don't want stupid, situations that are unthinkable, like walls coming up. And this was my big gripe for the film. Nobody seems to remember this at the end of the film. Yeah. Like, again, 6 months have gone by. The world has forgiven itself. That's not going to work for me in canon. They should have erased the memories of everybody.
They should have ever explained it. That might have happened. They didn't really explain a lot of stuff well enough.
Right. Keeping in mind, too, wait, a couple more things, just real quick, and I'll be quiet, Ray. I promise. I'll let you get the rest out. All right. This film was supposed to come out last summer. Right. So, like, July 4th, it was supposed to be out around then. That's why that was a little bit out of place
June,
now.
Yeah.
Right. It's also why the post-credit scene kind of made sense, because that's literally now, right? It's wintertime. It made sense.
Right.
But this whole film is a fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, again, it's what I expected. It was not any more than I expected. I enjoyed watching it. I didn't have a problem with it. Again, with DC, you can't go too. The one thing Marvel does so much better than DC is they flirt with canon in a way that it's still canon. DC just throws canon out the window. They have done that with this new iteration, and the problem they've always had is they can't decide if they want it to be canon or not. They make it canon when they feel like it, and then sometimes they just throw it out the door. Marvel has always, and this is Jon Favreau 100%, same thing he's doing with The Mandalorian with Filoni. They flirt with the canon, but they stay within a certain realm that it's believable.
They understand, and you see this a lot also with Marvel video games now, like the Spider-Man games and a lot of other stuff. They understand where they can take some creative liberties and where they need to stick to what people are familiar with and what people enjoy. Right? Like,
Absolutely.
You don't need to There's no sense in fixing something that isn't broken, but taking some creative liberties and expanding things again, like Star Wars, like the Marvel Universe. Like, obviously, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not beat for beat what we've seen over the years in the comics. But they understand this is the major plot points. These are the tentpole moments that people want to see. How we get to each tentpole, we can have some fun with. But we can't change the foundations.
No.
And I think that's where DC kind of goes wrong a lot of times.
And that's where we agree. That's where we totally agree on this.
Yeah,
right?
and I think...
And again, the difference is, though, I expect them not to do that. You expect them to do that.
I want to hold them to a higher standard. And again...
And I hope the new multiverse film... And again, this is not giving me any confidence. Keep in mind, too, this is a business. They've already greenlit Wonder Woman 3. They've already done it.
Right.
All right? And again, this is a movie that went from certified fresh to Rotten Tomatoes right away.
Right.
All right? People are going nuts. By the way, they love it. Everybody's talking about it. Yeah, people that love and hate it. I've seen some people... I won't name anybody, but I've seen DC fans defend the film. And I'm just going to say this. You can want to make this film a higher standard. It's not. I will say that. I love DC. This is not a higher level. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just very, very par for the course for them. We'll see what they do in the future. My only other gripe, Ray, that no one seems to have a problem with this but me. I was underwhelmed with the score, with the music. I think Wonder Woman has one of the coolest, most unique superhero themes ever.
Yeah,
I really mean that.
First film,
Ever. It is to me, it is on par with the original Batman theme, the original Superman theme. Again, not everybody has to agree with that, but it's on par. It's unique. The Superman theme and Batman theme are so unique, we never forgot them, right? Yeah. I'm not going to sing it. Ray knows I like to, but I'm not going to sing it. Right? He rolled his eyes for those of you listening at home. But the Wonder Woman theme is one of my favorite themes right now, and I don't think they did it more than 20 seconds the entire film.
Twice. I think it came up twice in the film.
Came up 2 fight scenes. Part of making a movie special is having that theme song playing more, all right? Like, again, not to do this, but the Batman, if you hear da-na-na-na-na, it changes the whole fabric of the scene.
Yeah.
Okay? The whole fabric. I promise you won't sing any more than that. But I'm doing it in my head.
Yeah, they did a poor job of using music to help set theme and mood for a lot of things, and I think that's also a cardinal sin that I think that usually DC gets right a lot of the time.
That's the one thing they do well.
Usually, and that was kind of made it a little extra disappointing. That's true. Also, speaking of Batman, I need to mention that Chris Pine, good on them for making the serving tray in the White House show that it could stop bullets, even in 1984. Because that serving tray, Chris Pine did a lot with that serving tray in the White House scene, so that redeems Michael Keaton's Batman for taking a bullet from the Joker. So I know
that
a lot
was
of
brilliant.
folks.
Again, a lot of throwbacks to those scenes.
There were some nods to other DC films.
Listen. This is an awesome theme song. All right, again, this is actually from Batman vs Superman. Okay, but this is her introduction, and I don't know why they didn't do more with that in this film. Again, DC,
you got it twice.
Has it's the one thing, seriously, DC has killed Marvel with.
Yeah,
they have always had better music.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the Avengers theme, but here's the funny thing about the Avengers theme.
Yeah.
That's the only song that rivals. There are 20, 30, 40 heroes in the MCU.
Yeah.
Right?
And
some of them have good theme songs.
Only the Avengers theme really stands out. Yeah.
Right. And they've abandoned more themes in Marvel than DC has made well. All right. They abandoned the Iron Man theme. I mean, I think the only two that are really around, Captain America has a theme that people recognize pretty quickly, but it's not really a theme. It's more just a sound signature.
Right.
Right. The Avengers song is amazing.
Yeah.
Think about this. Can you sing the Thor theme? Because there is one. Can you sing the Thor theme at home?
No idea.
Can you sing Iron Man's theme at home? Right? Depending on which one you want to talk about.
Yeah.
All right? Black Panther. Can you sing any of the Hulk? Any of them? They all have themes, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But they're not great. Yeah. Okay? So I'm just saying that was one of my gripes. Anyway, we've been talking about this for a long time.
Yeah, no, to just kind of wrap this up, I think, again, especially me, I was all over the...
Let's give it a grade. Right. Let's give it a score or a grade. You
want
to give it a grade or a score?
I'll give it 2 out of 5 stars.
Okay. And I will give it 2.7. No, 2.5. It was just an average film.
Yeah, 2.5. I say it's a little below average. Lee says it's average. Again, I had a lot of gripes, but again, it boils down to They asked us to suspend belief too many times. The movie felt bloated and slow at points. It was 30 to 40 minutes too long.
It's Batman Forever.
Yeah, and it copied a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff was just way too convenient. It was a poorly written film in a lot of ways, and that's again just talking as a film person, getting rid of. And I know I went deep into some comic book stuff there, even though I said I wasn't going to. I mean, obviously, some deep cuts that bother me, but like
you're allowed to do that on the show.
The big problems in the film that I just listed are really big problems, and they're hard to get over.
In filmmaking.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with the comics. Again, listen, one of the problems with being a comic book person or deep is you can always dive into the canon and find something wrong or out of place or that doesn't make sense. That wasn't the problem with this film. It was too many convenient plot points, number one.
Yes.
And I'll say it like this, that you must suspend belief in order to enjoy this film, which apparently I did
too much,
and you did not.
Yeah,
right. That's fair. That's totally fair.
And the pacing, and it was really slow for a lot of sections.
And again, like do what we do in gaming, like it's rewatchability, right?
Yeah.
It's low, right? It's not a movie I want to see. I mean, but here's the thing: it's not the worst movie I've seen. Like Aquaman, which was okay, wasn't as good as this to me. By the way, if we're looking at a ranking scale, that's a big deal that you didn't even watch it, Ray. That's a big deal. It says a lot.
Yeah, I don't
have
any interest in watching
by the way, a 5 out of 5 in the DC universe is just for people. It's The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Okay. Or Batman. Like those are the 5 out of 5.
Batman 89. Yeah.
Yeah. On our level.
Personally, yeah.
Okay. That would be a 5.
Yeah.
It's funny that it's both Batman.
5
Man
stars.
of Steel to me is like a 4. Like that's how we're ranking these things, right? Wonder Woman 1 would be a 4. Okay.
Yeah. I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'd probably give Man of Steel a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think
I love that film. I really love that film, and I was upset that they didn't do a direct sequel to that.
Yeah,
I think that would have helped out Batman versus Superman.
We can get into how they messed up the Snyderverse. That they basically just tried to rush things with that.
They did. No,
they tried to rush things. It's that simple. But again, it gets to, finally we might cut this out. Make this a separate thing because it's been an hour, but. The third Wonder Woman film has already been greenlit. Look, we talked about it earlier. It made a fair amount of money at the box office, considering COVID. It made a ton of views on HBO Max.
Right. It did its job.
Yeah, it did its job. The problem is that like its score is dropping precipitously as people are starting to see it now on Rotten Tomatoes,
and then it'll bounce back a little bit. Like this is what typically happens. These movies come out. People rave about it. It's amazing. Again, every review of this film was great prior to its release. No, really. I didn't see one bad review of Wonder Woman prior to its release. No, that's true,
but also...
So it's always this thing where it comes out and then it nosedives and then it comes back up for water.
I think a lot of entertainment journalists don't know what they're talking about anymore. But
no, they're just trying to they're trying to get on the poster. I mean, I know what they're doing.
Right. No, exactly.
This is how all these film moves. It was awesome, and then, it sucks, and then it kind of evens out. The only movies that didn't do that are Endgame, Infinity War... most Marvel films don't have a problem like that.
Yeah, no.
But most movies do this.
The thing is, something we mentioned is that obviously this is also one of the last films that was made under the old guard. Since then, AT&T has cleaned house at DC. A third. And again, I'm very sad to see that like all these people lost their jobs. But something that we've also talked about a lot in this show is the lack of leadership over at DC. And the hope is that the third Wonder Woman film that has already been greenlit and is being fast-tracked, with this new leadership now in charge, we'll pull in the reins. We'll have a bit more quality control when it comes to the script. And we'll probably, the fact that Patty Jenkins wrote with Jeff Johns at the time, and Jeff Johns has made a lot of great comic book stories. He was a terrible executive at DC. He did a terrible job with Jim Lee at the top of the ship. They're not leaders. They're very creative. They're good guys. They make some great stories. They are not guys who should be captaining the ship. It's the inmates running the asylum, basically, in that kind of scenario, and it's not good. Again, as somebody who saw some of it firsthand. Hopefully that the third film will bounce back a little bit with some new leadership there and a clearer focus, and so that is happening. So third film.
Yeah, keep in mind, this movie was supposed to be out 6 months ago. Like we gotta remember that.
Yeah, technically it's supposed to be out last year. It's supposed to be out last year.
Right. Right.
So I mean,
that's a good point. Like, just keep that in mind. That like that might be another reason why they put it on HBO Max, because they don't want it to look like it's part of the current canon. And I think that we have to remember that Wonder Woman 3 may not be a sequel to this film. That might be a sequel to something else. Yeah. That we don't know about yet. All right.
That's also true.
We'll see.
I mean, yeah, because the multiverse film might retcon a lot of stuff. And honestly, here's the thing. if DC
won't retcon it. It'll just make it a different universe.
Well, that's what I'm, exactly, right? Like, I think...
No, we're not retconning anything. Anything bad we do is in another universe. Convenient.
Yes. Again, super convenient for
Using a plot
DC.
from
But
another movie.
in that regard, not the worst idea, actually.
No.
So,
that'd be fair.
Speaking of things that things that are coming out next year, which will actually, if you're listening to this, it actually comes out tomorrow. If you're listening to this on the first day, it's New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. And as a gift to you, Sony Pictures, Cobra Kai Season 3 has been moved up a week. So instead of airing on January 8th, it's airing January 1st, so everybody can binge it on Netflix over the holiday, over the long weekend. And I know both Lee and I are super excited for more Cobra Kai. I've been waiting for this for a while. Obviously, COVID slowed a lot of stuff down, and obviously the move from YouTube to Netflix slowed things down a little bit. But Season 4 is on its way, but Season 3 is here tomorrow. Right. Cannot wait.
Yeah, it's exciting because it was a great marketing plan to show it, of Johnny Lawrence at his computer changing the date on Netflix and send it to the internet. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder why they had it slated for the 8th to begin with. I'm going to guess is that they just had some post-production stuff that they got done faster than they thought they could. Yeah. And it's ready to go, and it's a nice gift. It makes a great marketing campaign. Everybody's excited for this. It will be the #1 show probably for a week on Netflix, as we showed when they released it the first time. Yeah. And I'm very excited for it. Wonderful story. Again, Deadpool type show to me. I'll say this. It's just self-aware enough to make fun of itself.
A lot of smart winks.
And we also know, because again, this is kind of a preview, characters from Karate Kid 2 are showing up again, which is going to be great. There's a lot of rumors out there. Elizabeth Shue might be showing up in this season, which is great. Obviously, Elizabeth Shue, who's the love interest in the first film. Right. I was thinking, I was out for a walk the other day. I wonder if they try and pull in Hilary Swank at some point. For those of you who know or don't know, the movie The Next Karate Kid, a young Hilary Swank, who is an Oscar-winning actress, is the main character in that. And she never meets Daniel. So I think there could be this really cool situation where either Daniel does know her or she comes back almost like a lost child of Miyagi. Right. And says, like, you never met me, but Mr. Miyagi trained me too. Yeah. And then suddenly you have all these amazing people in this show. But obviously this season is going to follow Miguel, who at the end of season 2 breaks his back. Yeah. It does look like he's going to make a recovery from what we've seen in trailers. It also looks like Johnny Lawrence and Daniel LaRusso have to team up to beat Cobra Kai, which I love that.
I think that's a great idea. Yeah, that's what the most recent trailers seem to look at, where they have to take on Kreese.
Right, and then here's the thing. The fact that they already have a season 4 coming is music to my ears and Ray's ears, because it means they have a damn plan. Yes. Which means that they know where they're going, which is super, super important in shows like this. Yes. I'm very excited for this show. It will be #1 on Netflix the day it premieres. Can't wait for that.
Yeah, so you know what doesn't have a plan a lot of times? Video games.
It's true.
And that gets us into a story. This is kind of be more. We always editorial here. Obviously, this is an editorial show.
The whole point of the show, yeah.
Right? But this is going to be even more editorial than usual, as we're talking about something that we've been wanting to talk about for a while. After the Cyberpunk, the debacle, absolute disaster.
Top-selling game of the year is debacle.
Yeah, by the way, it still sold 13 million copies after returns, by the way, folks. So that says something.
That's incredible.
I still didn't think it was a very good game. I probably, with bugs, honestly, it's a 4 out of 10. Without, if I remove the bugs aside, it's a 6 out of 10. Right? It's still a mediocre game, even if the bugs were fixed, which there were plenty of them. But it's like one of the things is that I was talking with Lee, because again, we're writers, we're storytellers, we like to analyze the narrative and the plot. We just spent an hour with that with Wonder Woman.
Thank you for being with us still, but
yeah, I know that went way longer than either of us thought it was going to. But
let us know. Like you're listening to the show. Let us know. Was that too long, or did you get through it with no problem? Yeah. Right? Or you're like, please end this segment. Let us know, because we want to make the show better for you.
Yeah. No. Again, we it's the fun part about the show and it being a podcast. We can kind of just go off the rails like that sometimes. Yeah. But we wanted to talk about, or mostly I went off the rails. I really went off the rails. But as Lee nods his head for those of you just listening. But why do we want to talk about why some games, why the narrative suffers, even for a company that knows typically what to do with narrative. Again, CD Projekt Red, the Witcher games were great. Again, they had material to work off of, which does help a lot of times, as Kathleen Kennedy loves to remind people all the time. It's another knock at her. I don't like her in charge of Star Wars.
I know, but you love the things that you like in Star Wars, which is hypocritical. But we're not going to have that argument because we had it on episode 88. So
I think we had that
out.
last week. Yeah. But also there have been bad Star Wars games. Battlefront tried to introduce a story. It kind of fell flat in my opinion. Kind of not definitely
mediocre. Just mediocre.
It was mediocre. It was a game that clearly, and again, this is one of those things where the focus was not on the story, the focus was on the multiplayer. And that's why I really love Activision and I love Call of Duty. I know a lot of people like to rag on Call of Duty and the campaign's only 5 hours. But you know what? Most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, they really put some care and work into the narrative and make it a coherent and make it feel like it's only 4 or 5 hours, but this is going to be a fun 4 or 5 hour movie that makes sense.
Well, what's wrong with it being short? I don't understand that.
I never got that either.
Yeah, people are mad like, oh, The Witcher took me 4 years to beat. Like, that's great too. But I don't understand what's wrong with a 5 to 10 hour game, a story.
I don't get it.
I prefer that myself. I'm speaking for myself.
As we've gotten older,
I prefer that.
Like,
yeah, I don't have 200 hours right now to play a game.
Yeah, I mean,
all right?
I'm 50 hours into the new Assassin's Creed, and I'm loving it, by the way. There's some fun beats. It's also a bit of a slog at some points that you're just kind of finishing side quests and some things. Some of the side quests are a lot of fun, not going to lie. But, like, again, that's a game where clearly there was a lot of care and love put into the narrative, but they planned on
Ronald Reagan alone in that game. I watched you play this game on your Twitch channel, Ray Carcillo. Like, just the amount of care they put into Ronald Reagan. I mean, you felt like that was really the president in the room. That was not. I mean, dude, that was like he looked as good as Luke Skywalker, maybe better.
It really made it really felt like they captured the tone of the Cold War in the early '80s. Yeah. It really felt good, and that's why people are ragging on it. I don't know why, because they're like, well, it went back in time, and it's like I want to keep like, yeah, but it went to a cool era in time that they hadn't really explored before. To me, Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2 are still like the best of the series, but Cold War is better than 3 and 4 in my opinion. This is more a return to form for them because again, they went and got a professional writer in David Goyer to put together another great script and continue that story going back to the first 2 games, even though this takes place between 1 and 2, in a way that made a ton of sense and felt really good to play.
Here's the thing, right? And like this is kind of where the conversation splinters, okay? And this is what I want to talk about with you. You know, we have to start addressing kind of the elephant in the room of like these games are splintered. People want a story and a multiplayer. Yeah. Well, maybe it's time we start looking at things a little bit differently. That multiplayer games are different than story games. And I'm not saying that they should not be in the same package. Yeah. We got to manage our expectations with some of these. Like Call of Duty does this well. Yeah. You know what one of the major problems with television is, and one of the major problems with movies, making something too long. Yeah. Telling a strong story in 5 hours that's playable is a talent that I appreciate. I loved, again, Star Wars Fallen Order. Yeah. It's not a super long story. I love every minute of it. Yeah. I loved it. I loved every minute of that game. Great story. I can play it in chunks. I don't lose my mind. Yeah. I have some control, right? It's not open world, and it's not a multiplayer game. I loved it. Can you imagine if they tried to pack in an online multiplayer game with that? It would have suffered. This is exactly why Battlefront was bad. They tried to sneak in a story. Yeah. And again, by the way, not switching off Call of Duty too much, but it's like, man, it's Disney. You're the best storytellers on the planet. Focus on the story. And guess what? When they did, it worked. Yeah. Right? With Battlefront, if they wanted to do that, something should have been DLC. Maybe they should have released Battlefront, the online game, first and said, we have a major story coming. Yeah. And it's going to be here in 6 months. Cost $20 or whatever you want to do. Maybe it's free like Avengers is doing.
Yeah, or the reverse where Grand Theft Auto. Right. When Grand Theft Auto 5 launched, the story launched, the multiplayer didn't launch until 6 weeks later.
Right, and I think that's okay. I mean, you get twice the audience. Not everybody wants both, and I get that. I want the story. I prefer the story in the game. That's me personally.
Yeah, or I love what Capcom did this year with Resident Evil, the remake of Resident Evil 3. They're like, the remake story, $30. We've also made this really cool multiplayer mode called Resistance. If you want it, it's another $30. It's a $60 package. You get a full game. But if you only want the story, half price.
Right. They're figuring it out. And again, this is kind of something like the Avengers game, like which the jury's still out on where that's going. I really enjoyed the story in Avengers. Yeah. All right. But they tried to build this open world that they weren't ready for it. Yeah. Like there was no reason to play it. So I don't know. I just think the gaming industry needs to rethink this. Stop rushing stuff out. Do what you do well. Get that out first. Yeah. and then expand upon it. Like I said, Call of Duty is one of the rare games where they've kind of figured this out. They know people like Warzone. They know people like to play that type of game. They found a way to get that out there for free in most cases.
Yeah.
And then they compact a small, concise, well-written, well-performed story that you can buy into as well. So that's, to me, the way to do it. Mortal Kombat, I mean, I have to shout them out here. It's another game that, I mean, it's easier for them, but and obviously not a world-building game. They have a great story, or you can just kill your friends online, but you win either way. Yeah. And then the DLC is so fun, right? And they come with mini stories.
Yeah.
You can see what's successful. But Cyberpunk, again, I'm not going to buy it now based on you and everybody else. It has nothing to do with the bugs, believe it or not. You know this. I was going to buy it. But if it's a boring story, I'm not interested in investing time in a boring story.
It's not even. I mean,
I don't get that.
It's also bad gameplay in that case, right?
Right.
They dropped the ball. It seems on every front because the gunplay sucks, the driving sucks, but the story itself. Act 1 was terrible. The setup was terrible and boring and long. Act 3, the finish was boring and terrible. And then they try to cram so much into Act 2 that you don't get any character development. You don't get enough side quests. You get your love interest has 3 side missions. That's it, or one of them. And
you know what they're gonna say? You know what they're gonna say? Well, like, you're supposed to play more side missions. You got to play more side missions. That's a major oversight by gaming companies.
Yes.
I don't have time. Some people do. And again, look, I'm not. All you grinders out there, no problem. I'm not criticizing.
Well, and even the side missions in Cyberpunk are boring, though. It's the same thing. Go kill this person. Go steal this thing. It's the side they focus too much on adding little side missions that basically really just serve as a level grind. Like
it's a failure of world building.
Yes.
All right. And again, I know some people love to grind. I really don't want you to think that it's just not for me. It's not for Ray. Right? I want a good story. That's me. I know there's an audience out there because that's all we had growing up. We had actually pretty shitty stories. Oh, I said a bad word. We have pretty bad stories. Look, let's be honest about it. The Mushroom Kingdom and Saving Princess Peach, it's not an amazing story.
No.
But hell, I believed in it back then because I had to.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Zelda obviously has the best storyline of the original Nintendo games, but all these games, the ones you buy into, Ninja Gaiden, Zelda, Super Mario Brothers. I mean, I can go on for a long time.
The gameplay was what carried the day.
The gameplay, but you had a mission you had to complete
that
you wanted to complete.
Yeah.
All right. And here's the thing too.
Mega Man.
Super Mario 35 is actually a funny example here of a multiplayer online game from that time period. People love that too.
Yeah.
So it shows you they both can coexist.
Yes.
Right. But I am starting to have a problem with the lack of story building within the worlds you're creating. Right. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this business has grown so big in the multiplayer online open world phase that maybe that's phasing the type of gaming that I like to do out. Mm-hmm. I just don't buy that. I think there's a lot of people out there that love a good story and want to play a good story.
The best-selling video games are still single-player games. Whether you like the games or not, Last of Us 2, Ghost of Tsushima, Cyberpunk, again, one of the best-selling games of the year.
It's true.
Right. Now, look, and there are also, and the thing is there's also some games that also do well that are multiplayer only. Obviously, again, a lot of the Battle Royale games that are free to play, they make a lot of money by people wanting
Apex
to
Legends
invest in.
Yes. Right.
Also, Animal Crossing this year did very, very well for Nintendo,
Right.
which is kind of a weird amalgamation also of like.
But again, the thing is this: like, there's a place for all of this.
Yes.
I don't know why one has to be sacrificed for the other anymore.
Well, and
that's what I'm trying to say. I don't know why these gaming companies don't figure that out. Like, don't put out a crappy story.
Yeah.
Battlefront 2 would have been much more well received had there not been a story. And I criticized them for not having a story, but I'm looking back on it, it would have been much more well received if they had released that game with no story. It said a story is coming. We wanted to get the
no story and no
out.
microtransactions for that one. But
right, it's weird. Like, come on, I don't know.
You know what it feels
Ray,
like?
You and I figured it out. Let's take it to the internet.
You know what it feels like is that a lot of these companies are still trying to work on via old business models instead of focusing on what their strengths are. And I think that is the thing.
Yeah.
Understand that
that's the success in business, by the way, is get people focusing on their strengths.
Yes. Well, and that's why, and
you know that
it is bad in some regards because obviously with like Activision, right? Activision had 6 studios work on Call of Duty this year, and it sucks because that means that some of those studios aren't able to work on the independent projects, the passion projects that they want to work on, right?
Sure. But that's the price you pay.
Right. Exactly. But the fact that you have Raven and Treyarch working on the story, and Raven working on the multiplayer, and Beanox working on the gameplay and the customization. focusing on having studios focus on their strengths allowed Call of Duty to me, Call of Duty Cold War is a top 10, top 15 game this year.
Right.
You know,
Well, and look, let's talk about Ghost of
Tsushima.
Yes, I would say it wrong. That's why I had you do it.
So it's
right?
technically actually Tsushima,
And-
but I've heard
and
it both
Let's talk
ways.
about actually. I'm going to do another one. Let's talk about Assassin's Creed. This is easier.
Yeah.
Okay. They went down the hard business route of monetize. Keep releasing games, and they lost a lot of their power with that.
Yep.
Not all of it, obviously, but they lost a lot of their luster. And you're telling me now that Valhalla is out. It has a tremendous story. It has completely revived itself. They focused on what they do well, and suddenly this game is up there as like, wow, I love this game. Ray's telling me how much he loves this game every day.
Yeah.
It proves my point. All right, is that if you're not careful, and people do this in sports too, stop treading water and do what you do well.
Yeah.
All right, you will eventually. It's too. Look, I'm a business person. I understand the bottom line. I really do. But it's too much about that. You lose the loyalty of your fan base after a while, which is worth more than that money. Because if you lose that, there's no business. Right? So I just think that, these executives have got to open their eyes. If you are a great storytelling game, The Witcher, I know you have source material. Great story.
Yeah.
Great, phenomenal story. That does not apply to Cyberpunk, apparently.
Yeah, I don't know where they went wrong in terms
Open
of telling
world.
a story.
Oh, we create great open world games. No, you created an open world game that had a great story.
Yeah.
They missed that.
Yeah.
Okay? So now they created, let's be honest, Cyberpunk outside the bugs, how's the world? Let's just talk about that. How is the world without any bugs?
I really don't care about it at all.
Well, would a good story have enhanced that?
Oh, for sure. Well, that's the thing.
So
yeah,
that's my point.
That's the thing. Yeah, no,
Okay?
the world
That's the point I'm
itself,
trying to
the
make.
world to me just feels like I don't know. Honestly, it just feels like it wasn't realized, that it wasn't emphasized enough. Like there's a couple of cool buildings and a couple of
That's my
spots
point,
that are
Ray.
great.
So,
but
so what I'm saying to you is that there's potential for them to build this great open world there, but with no story, it's just lifeless.
yes,
Right?
exactly.
And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that they focused on the wrong thing. Because I think when I look at Cyberpunk from the outside looking in, again, haven't played it, I'm amazed by like, wow, look at this world they've created out of nothing in the future and all these things and these upgrades. Without a good story, it does not matter.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. And that's the point I'm trying to make. We need to get back to better storytelling within games. A lot of games do it well. Disney, I remember we had this conversation years ago, Ray. The fact you released a Star Wars game without a good story, I was devastated with that. You are literally, Disney, the greatest storytellers on the planet Earth, and you have held that for years, and now more than ever, you have championed that with everything that you do.
Yeah.
How did you release a game without a story?
You have to remember, though, at least with Star Wars, that Disney is the license holder. They were not making a lot of those.
I don't care.
I
You own
understand.
it. If it's under their umbrella, they're responsible for it.
Right.
I don't care about that.
Right. Well,
they need to. Again, I think they definitely got involved with Fallen Order, whether they say it or not.
Yeah.
All right. You can tell that you can tell that game is much more canon than anything else. To the point people are begging Cal Kestis to show up in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That tells you something.
Yeah.
No one's asking for the character from the
Eden
actual
Versio,
game
yeah.
that talks about they talk about it in The Mandalorian.
Yeah,
No
Operation
one's
Cinder.
asking for those characters.
Yeah, no one
Think
cares.
about that for a minute. Yeah, that says everything right there.
Yeah,
and
no.
Cal Kestis will not be in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, he's not. But no, it's true. It's. I mean, again, it's also different studios. It's also EA obviously getting involved. There's nuances to those deals that we aren't privy to.
I will not give them a free pass. If Star Wars is under Disney's ownership, Disney has a responsibility to that franchise to make sure that it's taken care of. I don't care what they're doing, what platform. I don't care if it's toys. They have a responsibility to make anything that comes out from Star Wars to be great. And if they don't do that, they're going to screw it up.
Well, and that's why after Battlefront 2 release, Disney did get more involved.
Exactly.
They realized that they couldn't let EA just go off on their own, because EA clearly needs someone on. EA needs to be on a leash, basically,
Absolutely.
because otherwise they're just going to try and bombard you with microtransactions. And Disney
Right.
threatened to terminate the deal with EA, which is
Good.
one of the biggest deals that EA has.
And that's my point. Even they figured it out,
Yeah.
right? I mean, even in their, I'm trying to throw you a football here. Even in their sports games, they need to rethink
Yes.
how things are done.
Yes. Well, before we get into sports, just very briefly
I'm teasing.
touch upon a very sad story. Brodie Lee, formerly of the WWE, AEW, has been all around the indies.
True.
Really great wrestler. the best way to describe him, if you're a wrestling nut, is a modern Bruiser Brody.
Yeah, that's fair.
He was a big man who could move. He had a great look, a great persona. Never really got the push that he deserved at WWE. But he passed away this past week, unfortunately, of a lung illness, not COVID. His wife wanted to be very clear that this was lung related, but it was not a COVID related issue. He passed away at 41. He just finished a great TNT championship run with AEW. And then he left because of an undisclosed injury. I'm not sure if that injury was the lung issue or whatever, but he hadn't been on TV for a couple of months, and he sorrowfully leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. He was, by all accounts, a great guy in the locker room, an absolutely tremendous personality. As a fan, he was a great wrestler. His ring presence was tremendous. Right. And this was a gut punch, I think, for the wrestling community, because you don't think about somebody passing away of what seems to be natural causes, or just obviously some sort of defect or whatever it may have been with his lung, that at 41 you don't see that, especially somebody who was in great shape. He was a big guy, but he wasn't like an Andre the Giant or anything. He was 6'5", 6'6", I think. Like, it just yeah, it's just really sad, and we wanted to give that a shout out. And
I do not want to overshadow his death with this. Right, it is a loss, but at some point, we as fans of wrestling or wrestling organizations, this is too many wrestlers that are dying too young. So again, a lot of the wrestlers from the 80s, we kind of know what substance abuses caused that. Wrestlers in the 90s and 2000s, we know steroids played a role. I think that organizations need to do a better job of protecting their wrestlers, protecting their talent. Yeah. Because again, 41, man, I'm almost 41. I mean, that's too young, right? So like, again, unless there's just some sort of pre-existing medical condition that nobody knew about, which is very possible.
I kind of think that's what they were hinting at. Like, they hadn't
right.
said that like with this one, like this again, he was to my understanding, I don't want to say straight edge, but he was very much not a drinker. He never did drugs.
Right. Like, look, I'll give it. And again, I'm not trying to overshadow his death. He will be missed, but I will say this: the WWE did a really good job after Chris Benoit, which I don't want to talk about, but they did a good job of saying to the wrestlers, okay, we need to make some changes. The brand suffered for it, and that's why I give them a lot of credit, because they made a change that hurt their brand, but they recovered. Yeah. So again, 2020 has taken a lot of people, obviously, but there's another one, and I'm just saying, like, it'll be interesting to take a look at this moving forward to see what kind of wrestling corporations make changes to better the quality of life for some of these people.
Well,
right?
I think
Ray, if he had a respiratory problem and it was undiagnosed, that's an alarming thing to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, again, some of it is sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's modern medicine.
I'm not taking that away.
You could go for your physical every. Sometimes people you just miss stuff.
I do not want people to think I'm making an accusation here. I'm not. All right. I'm just saying that, like, it is alarming to me.
Yeah.
How many wrestlers have passed young? That's all I'm trying to say.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, I think yes, I think somebody like, Roddy Piper or Vader or one of those guys passing in their 60s is very different from this, though, where I think it was
I totally agree with that.
Undiagnosed condition kind of thing, and it's tragic. It's just very, very tragic.
It is. I agree with you.
And I'm WWE did a small tribute to him last night. I'm curious to see what AEW does tomorrow night, as obviously that'll air after we record the show. But yeah, very, very sad. 41. John Huber was his real name, by the way. But Brodie Lee, as we better knew him, or Luke of the Wyatt family, WWE. Yeah, so Luke Harper. Yeah, so there you go. So moving into sports now, on that very somber note. If you thought I was ranting about Wonder Woman, wait till you hear me talk about the NFL playoff picture. Folks, we have a lot of football stories to talk about this week. Couple of fun things to get off the bat. The Bears offense, for the first time since 1965, to show you how bad this team is historically, in terms of offense, and pretty much in the Super Bowl era. The Bears, before the Super Bowl era, We're obviously a very good team, but 1965, you're getting on the cusp of the Super Bowl era. First time 4 games in a row they've scored more than 30 points. That was a wow stat that I heard. That's 55 years since they've done that. But the Bears have lined them up for a playoff position because of those wins, and we're going to get into that shortly. The Giants also, for the first time in our history, have had 4 straight 10-loss seasons. Now, of course, obviously they played less games back in the early days, so it was a lot harder to lose 10 games. But the first time in the modern era, the Giants have lost 4 years in a row, 10 straight games, or 10 games overall, I should say. So, yeah, I'm really, really mad at my team. But we're still in the playoff picture. We're going to get to that in a
Everyone's rooting for the Eagles in the NFC East except for Washington right now.
Yes, exactly. So it's kind of crazy. So let's get into the playoff picture. The only thing we know for sure in the AFC, Kansas City, the most sure-footed kicker this year has been the Falcons kicker, Koo, and he missed a chip shot field goal to give the Chiefs a 17-14 win, and that win seals the 1 seed for the Chiefs, who are trending downwards, actually. They've been struggling the past few games. They're finding ways to win. They look like a team in desperate need of that bye. They are going to get it if they want to repeat. They are the number 1 seed. Remember, folks, 7 teams make the playoffs this year. Only the top seed in each conference gets the bye. Buffalo and Pittsburgh have both won their divisions now, as Pittsburgh made an amazing comeback. The first time under Coach Tomlin that they've come back from a 17-point-plus deficit in the second half. They were down 24-7. They scored 21 unanswered. The Steelers beat the Colts, and that game had huge ramifications because now the Colts are on the outside looking in. The Steelers and Bills, the worst that can happen, either they're going to be the 2-3 no matter what. It's just going to be who's 2 and who's 3. That'll be decided in Week 17. This is where the craziness starts for the AFC. 4 playoff spots left, 4 through 7. 5 teams, all 10-5. The Titans right now have the tiebreaker with the Colts, so they have the 4 seed. If they lose to the Texans and the Colts, who should beat the Jaguars, if that happens, Colts will jump to 4. Titans will be out of the playoff picture unless they get help. Very easy. Titans win. They win the division. They're the 4 seed. If the Colts beat the Jags, which they most likely will, by the way, the Jags now have clinched the number 1 seed overall, even if the number 1 draft pick overall. If the Jags beat Indianapolis, they even at 2-14, then they are guaranteed that. As the Jets upset the Browns this week and have now won 2 in a row, the Jets, again, also, by the way, Cleveland, who had almost all their receivers were on COVID watch. Similar to what happened with Denver a few weeks ago, that room got close contacted, and through contact tracing, they shut all the receivers, had to miss the game. Made it harder for Baker Mayfield because he had nobody to throw to.
He did, yeah. I do want to comment on that just really quick because a lot of people are like, how do they lose that game? There's a lot of reasons why they lost that game. A lot of people did not show up. No, they were missing a lot of players. I think it's really important. And look, you have a Jets team coming off a win.
Yeah.
So they're supercharged again, and again finding their footing.
Yeah, a little late, a little too late.
Yeah, but I do think it's important. Like Mayfield.
We've been doing that. We've been doing that.
Yeah, Nick Mayfield, quarterback for the Browns. No, he looked devastated. He was really. I mean, he was really trying to win that game. I thought some of the play calling on the Browns was a little bit odd, especially on their final drive, which I don't get. I just don't get how teams are doing that. But yeah, I just wanted to say that the Browns should have won the game for obvious reasons. But it's also not like, what were you doing? Were they drinking the night before? We'll get into that later. But no, they lost the game to a team that's high right now. That's the way it is. Any given Sunday situation.
Yeah, exactly. And it just so it's a tough break for Cleveland. But right now, Cleveland is the 7 seed. The Ravens.
I want them to get in. I want the Browns in.
Yeah.
Browns fans have been through. Look,
if they have a 10-win season and don't make the playoffs, that would be the most Cleveland thing to happen.
It's just, listen, we made fun of them for years. Mm-hmm. Look, I'm from Philadelphia. I understand heartache. All right. Most of my life was that. I kind of want Cleveland to get in the playoffs. Yeah. Their fans have been through a lot. Jets fans have too, to be fair. But they suck. So I just want Cleveland. I'm actually pulling for you, Cleveland.
Yeah.
I hope you win.
They have a tough. If they win, they're in. But they have a tough test again. They're playing Pittsburgh, who seems to have started to turn things around after a 3-game slide.
Right. They really are.
Yeah.
They look awake. We talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
The team can find its footing late and blow through the playoffs.
Yeah,
so,
so it'll be interesting to see what happens. So Cleveland has a tough test. Can they beat the Steelers? And by the way, if they beat the Steelers, they might face the Steelers in the first round of the playoffs.
Which would be great.
Yeah, so that would be very interesting. Baltimore, after destroying the Giants, no surprise there, won by 2 touchdowns, 27-13. Baltimore jumps up to the 6th seed by lieu of the Indianapolis loss. Other big thing, we talked about this privately a lot. We also put up a thing on the couple of things on the page. The Miami Dolphins, Fitzmagic, on Saturday night, pulls out the most improbable victory ever. 19 seconds left. He drives the team 50 yards with a little bit of a help from a face mask penalty. Literally with his helmet turned sideways, chucks up a Hail Mary. The catch is made. They tack on the 15 yards. They kick the 44-yard field goal. They beat the Raiders by 1. Also, by the way, the Raiders, in typical Raider fashion, missed an extra point earlier in that game. And the Dolphins, because of that, move into the 5 seed, but they too, if they lose, because they have a tough game against the Bills, they could slip out.
Yeah. Well, I do want to talk about that play briefly.
Yes.
Before we blow through the rest of the leagues and the rest of this football segment because we're running late. But this is what I'll say about that play, and this is the magic of sports. What Fitzpatrick did was incredible. Incredible with his helmet tie. Was a hell of a toss. I look at this as a football coach point of view. I do not know how he was that open to catch that pass. That was horrible coverage.
Yes.
No way should a guy be that open. I'm not saying he shouldn't have been open, but that open on the sideline in a situation like that.
I mean, it was a Hail Mary.
He had time to stop, to look up,
almost like a fair catch, almost like a punt.
Yeah, that is not acceptable. I would have been super mad if I'm Vegas there. The other thing too is that Aguilar caught a ball, a major catch in that game to put them ahead, which was also shocking.
Nelson Aguilar had 155 receiving yards in that game.
I know. There's debates. Obviously, we joke about him on the Eagles. Like, it depends on which Aguilar. If we talk about 2007 Aguilar, which he caught everything, won the Super Bowl, great guy. Any year after that, So the other thing too is that, look, this is Nick Foles type territory. Again, for those of you who don't know, Ray and I agree on this. Nick Foles is the greatest backup quarterback in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
All right? And fight me on that. But it's true. He's the greatest backup quarterback in the history of the league. It's not just because of the Super Bowl. When he appears as a backup, look at his record.
He's a shot in the arm.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying. Fitzmagic is doing that now. There is no quarterback controversy. They've already said that Tagliavoa is going to be playing next week. And that I do love both Tagliavoa and Fitzpatrick because they seem to understand each other.
Yeah.
And that, there's a lot of admiration there of like, look, I know this guy wants to be the starter, but the truth is this guy can come in at any point and do what he does. And that's a gift to the team. And
and he's done it a couple times
Fitzpatrick,
this year now.
Yeah. Right. And Fitzpatrick doesn't come out and go like, I should be starter. I mean, there's no controversy here.
And Tua didn't have a terrible game. Tua also is just, it seems that he is scared to throw the deep ball, and so the Raiders started to clamp down on him. He went 17 of 22, but only 94 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks.
Side note real quick, I love how easy it is for us to say Tagliavoa now when we couldn't say that a year
ago.
No, Taglia whatever.
Tagliavoa.
I think we said too. I think we said like a year ago, like, it's only going to be a short amount of time before we can all say his name perfectly.
Yeah.
Tagliavoa. And there you go. So just if you haven't seen that play, make sure you check it out. It's easily the play of the week. Yeah. Easily. There's no other play that's better than that one.
Yeah. So,
but yeah,
it's going to be a crazy finish to the AFC to see which 4 teams make it and which 5.
Oh, you mean the AFC is playing good football?
Yes.
And you have to wait to the final week to see which good football team is going to get into a playoff with other good football teams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did I give you enough of a toss-up here?
Yeah, because the NFC is not as good. We'll go through it real quick. The Packers was actually a good game until about the third quarter, and then I think the snow really started to affect Tennessee. It was a Sunday night game. Green Bay blew out Tennessee. It was 19-14, but I think Green Bay scored 2 more touchdowns after that. I think it was 33-14 or something was the final. Green Bay right now has the inside track. They need to beat the Bears to get the number 1 seed to clinch it. If they lose and the Saints lose and the Seahawks win, it's a weird scenario. The Seahawks can get the 1 seed. But right now it looks like New Orleans and Seattle are going to fight for 2 and 3. And Green Bay will get number 1. New Orleans plays Carolina, a game Carolina team that beat Washington this week. We're going to get to that in a second. And Seattle, who seems to be clicking right now, they beat up on the Rams. They've clinched the division. The Rams are...
That's the easy division.
Yeah.
These are the easy divisions.
Yeah, exactly.
To talk about.
The other team to clinch a playoff berth this week was Tampa Bay. If they win, they clinch the 5 seed. They cannot win the division. The Saints have wrapped that up. They clinched this week with the tiebreakers. Tampa Bay could fall as far as the I think the 6th seed. So it's 5 or 6 for them. That's basically it.
Right. And I'm going to say this too. We're going to talk next week because we're running a little short on time this week. But I do wanted to talk after the season, the Tom Brady leading the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the playoffs and the New England Patriots not making the playoffs. There is a Brady Belichick discussion to be had, but I think we should let the season finish officially before we have that.
Yeah, no, that is...
I want everybody to know we are going to talk about that. It's going to be a topic.
Yeah.
Ray and I have a lot of thoughts on that, so stay tuned for that one next week. But we want to give them the ability at least to finish the season before we do that.
Yeah. So, no, for sure. So, again, the Rams lost to Seattle. Chicago beat Jacksonville. They blew them out. No surprise there. Arizona lost the bad game to the Niners, a depleted Niner team. So now Arizona is actually on the outside looking in.
Yes.
If Arizona beats the Rams, though, this week, Arizona moves into the playoff picture. Actually, so this is another crazy one, right? If Chicago wins, they are the 7 seed. If Chicago wins and Arizona wins, I think the Rams slip out of the playoffs because even though the Rams have the tiebreaker with the Bears, the Cardinals would have the tiebreaker with the Rams, and the Bears have the tiebreaker with the Cardinals. So
it's just 2 rough losses in a row for the Rams. The games they should have won.
Oh, the Jets one in particular is one they're going to be kicking themselves for forever.
Oh, and that's look.
If
that
they don't make
leads
the playoffs.
me to. Well, it just leads me to the conclusion they don't deserve to be in the playoffs if they can't beat those 2 teams, 2 bottom-seeded teams. You have to win those games to get. I don't know.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, we lost a tough one to Seattle. Seattle, obviously, a very good team. But losing to the Jets, they're going to regret that for a long time if they don't make the playoffs. Again, if Arizona wins and Chicago wins, the Rams are actually on the outside looking in. And again, Arizona faces the Rams, so that could very likely happen. But if Arizona wins and Chicago loses, then the Rams and the Cardinals will make it. So a little bit of mix up there, the bottom 2 seeds. And then, of course, there's the big one that we want to talk about is that somehow the NFC East is still not decided. Washington did not want to win at all against Carolina. We're going to get into the quarterback situation a little bit, but they did lose by a touchdown, 20-13 against a game Carolina team, although it was very sloppy first half. Both teams just kept turning the ball over back and forth. The Giants, we said, got blown out. Dallas, sorry, Lee, they blew out your Eagles.
Oh, yeah, the Eagles were horrible.
Yeah.
They deserved to lose.
And
the Eagles are eliminated from the playoffs. Actually, what's funny, right before you go into it, NBC did a really smart thing, and they flexed the Eagles-Washington game to 8:15 on Sunday night. So basically what they've done for the NFC East fans is basically the winner of Dallas versus New York is rooting heavily for the Eagles.
Right.
So the winner of Dallas versus New York will be in the playoffs should the Eagles beat Washington. If Washington wins, they're in.
Exactly.
Easy.
Exactly.
Right?
Washington's in control of their own.
They did a good job here. So now what happens is that 1 o'clock game between Dallas and New York is a playoff game. Right, and then they need to pray for the Eagles to beat Washington,
right?
Which is going to be an interesting game. A lot of people might think that they're going to walk over, and keel over. The Eagles have a lot to play for here, a few ways.
And Washington doesn't have a quarterback,
right? And we're going to talk about that in a minute too.
Yeah.
But like Eagles are going to want to prove something here. I know they're going to be a little deflated, but you got Jalen Hurts, you got Carson Wentz. I don't know what's going to happen there. Number one, number 2 is Washington beat his first game of the season, effectively kicking us out of the playoffs right then. Yeah. Right. So we're going to want to win that game. The Eagles are going to want to win that game, all right, and they're going to be mad.
It's a divisional game. They're going to fight. It's going to be. So
interesting. It's going to be an interesting situation. But I like the NBC flex that game because now you're not playing at the same time. Like they did this last week too, which was brilliant. Dallas, New York has major implications.
Yes.
It pretty much puts them on deck. The winner of that game goes on deck for the playoffs.
Yep.
And if Washington strikes out, I like this analogy.
Yes.
They're in.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the crazy thing. I mean, and it could. Yeah, if Dallas wins, then they need Washington to lose because Washington right now has the tiebreaker with Dallas. So Dallas would be 7-9. Washington would fall to 6-10.
Right.
If the Giants win, the Giants would then have the tiebreakers over Dallas and Washington. They would be 6-10. If Philly beats Washington, then with 3 teams at 6-10 atop the NFC East, the Giants would win the division.
Yeah.
And
so I'm going to say this again. It's if Washington wins, they're in.
Yes.
And then the winner of Dallas and New York is in should Washington lose.
It's that simple. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And it's crazy. Could be the
and
first
the
time.
Eagles are not in the playoffs.
Right. And if the first time possibly ever a team could win the division in the NFL with a 6-10 record. The NFL is praying that Washington wins or Dallas wins because it's already been really bad. They've been fighting this. Look, this isn't the first time. The Seahawks were 7-9 10 years ago. They ended up winning their first round game against the Saints. That's when Marshawn Lynch in beast mode was born. The Panthers did the same thing back in 2014. They were 7-8-1 and won their first round matchup. Also, needs to be mentioned, in 1982, it was a strike-shortened season. Both the Browns and the Lions made the playoffs with losing records, but they were only 4-5. Again, that was a strike-shortened season, so a little bit more forgiveness there. This is going to be guaranteed the 5th time in NFL history that a team with a losing record will make the playoffs. The question is, will we 7-9 or the NFL's nightmare 6-10, where the Giants would then have to win the Super Bowl to finish the season with a 500 record? Wow. So the reason why we think Washington could actually lose that game is they have another quarterback controversy on their hands.
Ray, I'm going to say this to you again. Mm-hmm. I got to tell you this before you get into this.
Yeah.
I can see you mildly getting your hopes up. And I'm going to warn you once again. Should the Giants win,
not gonna beat Dallas.
Should they win and go all the way to the Super Bowl, I will be very, very happy for you.
It'd be really bad for the NFL, though.
Right, but I as a friend, and this isn't me being a jerk. I'm not being one of those bad fans. As a friend, do not get your hopes up.
I know.
I mean, you should just be happy that you're in it somehow.
I know, somehow playing a meaningful game in December.
Season.
Like, again, look, my prediction for the Giants was worst case scenario 4-12, best case 7-9. I said most likely they'll be 5-11 or 6-10, and that's exactly where they are. Right. My prediction at the beginning of the season was spot on.
I got to say this too real quick about the Eagles. All right, is that, and I told this to Ray, and Ray knows me well enough to back me up on this. I said it, that it's not that I don't want them to make the playoffs. I'm not gonna be one of these things. I don't want them to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that, but I said that it's like, man, I just want to kind of get this over with now, no matter what they do, because none of them deserve it. No. None of them deserve a Super Bowl.
No.
Okay. Now I'll say this kind of quickly that, look, if one of these teams gets to the Super Bowl, I don't know, maybe they do deserve it, but they just right now none of them do.
No, right? Then no one's. They're not getting past the first round. And I don't need
that underdog story. Like there's so many good. This is why I say this. It's so hard to like justify this. There's so many good football teams right now that deserve that.
Yeah.
Right. Like I just don't want the underdog story is awesome. I love it, but it's like they just don't deserve it.
Yeah. Although I will say this, it would be funny if the Giants won the division, because most likely their first round matchup would be Tom Brady with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that would be hilarious if they did that again.
Yes, so
I can see Brady like, no.
Yeah, not the Giants. Anybody but the Giants.
Again, Tom Brady, Belichick. We'll talk about that after the season.
Yeah,
we do have to talk about the Washington football team. And the situation with their quarterback, which is going to take a minute because there's more to this than people probably know.
There's a lot more to this. Dwayne Haskins, I guess to set things up, was obviously their number 1 draft pick a couple years ago. Started most of last year. Had an rookie campaign, but it's not to be, he had no weapons around him. It was a bad defense. Washington was not going to be good with him, obviously. And they drafted him because Alex Smith, nobody knew what was going to happen with him, which we still don't know, by the way. His other leg is hurt now, so we have no idea who's going to start for Washington on Sunday against Philly. He started the first 4 games of the year, and I want to say this because Haskins didn't have a great start. Obviously, he beat Philadelphia. He had better numbers than Daniel Jones did through 4 games this year. That's a fact. And then Ron Rivera decided to bench him. He put in Kyle Allen, who the Giants then broke his leg because that's what the Giants do, especially this year, it seems. And then Alex Smith got healthy enough to play, and Washington went on a miraculous run. They won 3 of their next 4. They seem to be clicking. He got hurt again. But again, that's really much like the Giants. The defense is carrying Washington. Giants and Washington, very similar teams. Terrible offense, great defense. Anyway, so then they have to go back to Haskins, who had now at this point sat for more than half the season. He came in and has played really terribly. Not going to lie, his numbers aren't there. He's turning the ball over. I think he started 0 for 5 with like 2 picks against Carolina. Like, he looked really bad. Making some really rough decisions. Also, the story came out that he broke COVID protocol twice. Once earlier in the year, was fined $5,000. And then again, right before the week against Carolina, A very important game, by the way, which they could have clinched the division there against the Panthers. And he was fined $40,000 and had his captaincy removed. Since then, Haskins has been released by Washington, and now they're down to their fourth-string quarterback, I think his name's Chris Heineke, who last played, he played in the game against Carolina, but before that, hadn't played in several years, but Rivera knows him from Carolina, much like he knew Kyle Allen. He played well under center, but I think the reason why Philly could possibly win is this is the fourth-string quarterback for Washington that might be starting on Sunday, if Alex Smith isn't healthy enough. This is... it's really kind of a sad story because now this number one draft pick has, again, some of he's done it to himself in terms of the strip club thing, breaking COVID protocol this week before the Carolina game. But I also want to say I think part of it is also on the coaching staff, and part of it is also on him how he was handled in Washington. But he's been let go. In his NFL career, who knows what's going to happen? Maybe somebody takes a chance on him again. Obviously, quarterbacks are in strong demand.
He'll play again. He will get signed. He will play again.
I think he will play again, at least as a backup. A lot of guys question his work ethic. Right. A lot of folks still, but then you also point to the fact that his teammates loved him enough to vote him a captain in the offseason. This guy going into his second year with the team. So you're getting conflicting stories here. It's like, well, was he a good teammate or was he a bad teammate? He went when Chris Heineke went put on the field. People thought this was weird, but I thought it was actually really cool. He came out and he came out on the field before play, gave him a high five and said, "Go get him." Like he seemed to be a team player. Maybe he wasn't putting the work in, but he also doesn't seem like he's a bad guy. He just made some really bad mistakes. So, and again, Rivera, of course, also said today, kind of gave the stereotypical good luck to him in his future. Thank you for your service to the Washington football team. Like, I don't know. I don't want to blame this fully on Rivera, but there also seems to be like this was not fully on Haskins either.
Let's go through point by point because I have perspective on both sides of the aisle on this. I always preface these statements, these segments, by saying that we see very little about what goes on in the locker room. We only see what they show us on TV, especially this year. So we're seeing 10% of this guy's football life. Right. Okay, so we don't know, but this is where I come from with this. Mm-hmm. I'll start from the coaching standpoint. Rivera is trying to create a culture in Washington, right? And it's quite clear. They could have traded Haskins. They could have done a lot. They could have just benched him. They dropped him. Yeah, that was a message to his football team of I'm creating a certain type of culture here. This young man does not fit into it. He does not follow rules. Again, I'm being harsh on purpose. Because I'll devil's advocate this in a minute. Mm-hmm. He's saying this is not the person I want leading our football team. And this is a message to all of you that if you want to get behind someone like this, you do not have a place here in Washington. From a strictly coaching standpoint, from a strictly organizational standpoint, this is exactly what Washington has needed for a long time. Mm-hmm. Okay, Snyder's not going to provide it. Rivera is a coach that knows what he's doing, and he is going to try and create a culture in Washington of accountability. He's going to try and create a culture of leadership, a culture of winning. Okay, from that standpoint only, that actions have consequences, and a coaching point, I get it. I understand it. I actually think it's the right thing to do. The other side of the ball, as a player, all right, this young man out of college came into a multi-million-dollar amount of money. Yeah. They do not do enough to train players on how to manage their money, how to manage life after college. We have heard numerous stories of people coming from underserved and low financially stable communities, and suddenly they come into millions of dollars. Yeah. All right? And it's not handled well. We do nothing to educate these people. We do nothing as a society or as a league or as a team to assist these people. Now, the question would come, is it their job? Is it the team's job? Is it the organization's job? Is it the league's job? These are a business. These are all businesses. Teams in the league are businesses. Is it their job to make these guys good employees, or should they come in respecting the game? There's a lot of gray area in that. All right? I do believe that teams, not the league, I believe that teams should have some form of training, and a lot of them do, about what it means to be a Washington football team member. Right. What it is to be a New England Patriot, Philadelphia Eagle. I know that at the NHL level, I've seen it. Mm-hmm. Teams, I've seen teams cut players, NHL-capable young players, for being late to their first practice. Yeah. They put them right in the AHL, make a statement. I believe that culture in the NHL, of that, at least being accountable to that, there's a lot of problems in the NHL too, is what the NFL needs. All right. There should be training. There should be financial training. There should be a life after college training.
Yeah.
Again, we've talked about this in life. These guys are 24, 25. They come out of college, get grades, or they've been floated their whole life. A, B, C, D, F. I'm going to do all right. No, at the NFL level, you get fired if you're not following protocol. And Rivera must say, look, I don't want to deal with this. Get me someone else.
Yeah.
All right. We're not a good enough football team. This guy's not going to be our future, and we know it. Let's get rid of him now.
Yeah.
All right. So it is a little bit harsh, but so is life.
Yeah.
I fully believe Haskins will find another team and learn
Yes.
his lesson. He did screw up this year, and I am not giving him a free pass on
No.
that. Okay? I am giving him a nod of we do not do enough for young football players to prepare them for going from a one layer of life to a completely different layer than life. I think something does need to be done there. I think teams would behoove themselves to have some sort of team building leadership, mentorship training. I think the fact that they voted him a captain might have been a good teammate, but might not have been a good leader for the team. Look, I've been on teams where I've had great teammates, but bad culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And those teams don't win. All right. I've been on plenty of teams where the guys all like each other and lose every game.
Yeah.
Right. It's not enough. Culture is very important. Now, a great team inside a great culture is a championship team. All right. But again, I don't think that Haskins is a bad human being. I just think he might not be understanding the culture that Rivera is trying to build. And look, here's the deal. That's his job.
Yeah.
All right. That's Rivera's job, is to build a culture that can win.
Yeah.
And he'll do it. All right.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of gray area on this one. It's always tough to see a young kid get dropped. But I understand the reasons for it. It's up to you to decide at home whether or not you agree with those reasons, or obviously let us know what you think. Did he get like Ray said? Did he get a unfair shot here? Was this unfair? Ray, just going back to the benching thing, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
This is the NFL. You got to be ready to go all the time, all the time.
True,
so while I understand what you're saying, like you got benched and they threw him in a game, this is the NFL.
Yeah.
There's somebody else that can do it. Fitzpatrick, we just talked about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, and
Right,
it also goes again to his work ethic. Like people were saying he wasn't properly prepared.
And
a
they
lot
wouldn't
of
be
games.
saying that if it wasn't true. And no one has fought that. That's something I've noticed. They attacked Carson Wentz earlier in the season about his work ethic, and his own teammates were like, "Whoa, no,
pushed back against
this guy
that,
works his butt off."
Right.
All right, like no one pushed back, to my knowledge, against his work ethic.
Right.
All right.
No,
so
that's true.
The best case scenario is this: look, Haskins has got to learn his lesson here.
Yeah, this will be a wake up call.
It's kind of the opposite of Antonio Brown, who just blamed everyone else last year.
Yeah.
Like, not my fault, it's the league. It's not my fault, it's the team. No one defended him with that. It's his fault.
Yeah.
It's his fault. All right, so Haskins, take accountability here. Lesson learned. You will find another team. You're going to be a backup first. Eventually, you get your shot.
Yeah.
All right, like that's how this works.
Yeah.
But you always have to be ready to go all the time.
Yeah.
It's the backup goalie scenario.
Yep.
There's no excuses. You might get 5 games a year on some teams. You might get 30. You got to be ready to go.
Yeah.
And you might suddenly become the starter like that.
Yeah.
All right? Henrik Lundqvist, who we're going to briefly talk about, that's how his career started. He was a backup to Kevin Weeks, New York Rangers. One moment, Weeks gets hurt, he's the starter for 20 years.
Well, let's say, it's Wally Pipp, right? It's Wally Pipp, Lou Gehrig.
Right.
It's
There's so many. These guys, Foles, these guys come in, they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Haskins needed to have that. He did not have that.
Right.
Hopefully, it's a lesson learned.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and Booger McFarland, who I very rarely agree with anything he says, but on Monday Night Football brought up a very good point speaking to this. Now, he didn't offer any solutions like Lee just did, but he talked about how he remembered.
Well, not that we saw. To be fair, he may have. It was a clip.
Right, but
shame on ESPN for not including that in the clip if he did.
Right, but I mean, and Randy Moss agreed with him too. Is that this is something that a lot of young players again remember. Haskins is a 23-year-old kid. Not every 23-year-old kid has the maturity to be a star or be a quarterback or a starter in the NFL.
I agree with that.
And a lot of times, this is why half the draft ends up being washed out of the league within the first 3 years of the 3 or 4 years.
It's important to note what you just said. This is true of most drafts, not every draft.
Yeah.
About 50% of the players do not come to fruition.
Yeah.
All right, and we talked about this in another show. If you're a GM drafting on draft day, there's a 50% shot who you pick is not going to play out.
Yeah.
Just wanted to say that.
Yeah.
That's tough odds.
Or at least with your team. Like, we've seen this a lot. I mean, I've seen this with a lot of... God, I've seen this with so many Giants over the years. Guys who, after their rookie contract with the Giants, go elsewhere and then start to thrive. Sometimes the culture's not the right fit. Sometimes the kid... Again, or sometimes it's a maturity thing. This could be the wake-up call that Haskins needs, and then who knows? He goes somewhere like, I don't know, Detroit or Jacksonville or whatever.
He will land on his feet. Although I will say this, that like the lone NFL player that supported him was Terrell Owens, and I'm thinking this is not a good bar.
Yeah.
Terrell Owens, he's going to be fine, but he would know about this. Terrell would know about this.
Well, I mean, and even Randy Moss in a degree. I mean, Randy had an exceptional talent that helped him overcome a lot of his immaturity as a player, whereas Haskins doesn't seem to be that level of a talent.
And Moss did come around at the end of his career.
Yeah, and yes, when Moss found the right culture, and some guys, again, it takes time to mature. Sometimes you need that wake-up call. Speaking of Randy Moss, Chris Carter is another perfect example of a guy. He had other problems, obviously.
Right. Well, going back to what Booker said, the one thing I love that he talked about that these kids come out of college and they're focused on their brand, and they're focused on their Instagram and their Twitter and their TikTok,
which is important.
And he was pretty harsh
to a
on
degree
those
nowadays,
right?
Like,
he was harsh on those things to the point that I believe both those can coexist. I don't have any problems with a young kid coming out of college trying to monetize his name. I think that's actually pretty smart.
Well,
I thought
Patrick Mahomes is a perfect
old-school.
example of a guy who did it
Great
right.
Example.
Like,
right.
Russell Wilson.
RG3 would be broke if he didn't do all the Subway commercials.
Right.
So my point to you is that I don't have a problem with a kid trying to brand his name, but the thing I did agree with Booger is that it can't overtake the team.
Yeah.
Right. You can't be bigger than the team. Mahomes has never done that. Mahomes, sorry,
Right.
had to get it out. But he's never done that, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's what happened here. It sounds like it did. All right. But Booger made a good point about like your branding can't overcome the team. But I'm not going to agree with him that these branding opportunities are not important.
Yeah.
These are kids who are trying to make money for their families in a lot of cases, even if they can't handle their own money. All right. And again, I don't have any problem with that. So I'm just saying that is that I think those two worlds can coexist. All right.
Yeah.
And I hope that, again, look, I have very little tolerance for guys that break rules as a coach, but that doesn't mean that as a coach or an organization, they can't do more to acclimate guys to the NFL lifestyle or financial success to that level. And again, I'm not even saying that's on the coach. Organizations, these are your investments. Haskins was an investment you just dropped.
Yeah.
Do more to invest in your players so that they will become part of the culture.
Yeah.
I know a guy, Ray, that runs a company that does that. His name rhymes with Shmish Shmishmayas.
Yeah.
Okay? So we'll see how that plays out. But no, I'm saying this, and again, I'm sorry, it sounds like I'm patting myself. I'm an expert in this stuff. This is what I do.
Yeah.
This is what I do outside this podcast. I work with sports teams all the time. And you know what? They win because the team, not me, the team comes together, right? So I just think that there's a need for that. And I think if you look at the losing organizations in all of sports, they're missing that.
Yeah.
Right? Washington doesn't seem to have a culture. They had a culture for a time under Smith because they had something to rally around.
Right.
Right? Same thing with Rivera and obviously his really great battle with cancer.
Yeah.
You have these things to rally around, but do they have a culture that that lives in? I don't know about that. I don't think so.
No, not
We'll
yet.
see where
They're
they go in a
working
few
on
years.
it, but not yet,
They
obviously.
are working on it. And again, I think when they have a new name next year, I think Washington's clearly going in the right direction.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
They're nowhere close to where they need to be.
Yeah.
But this was a statement from Rivera of this does not fit in what I'm trying to build. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Right?
That's that
what
simple.
it is.
It's really that simple. And that, I mean, again, good luck to him. I mean, like Booger said, hopefully he doesn't, nobody wants to see him be the next Jamarcus Russell, right? Guy who was drafted,
Nobody,
got
not even us. Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Got $40 million and
Haskins
pissed it all
wasn't a jerk
away.
about it either.
No.
Yeah, like Brown was a jerk about it nationally.
Yeah,
Like
Haskins has thus far
he's
also
not
handled
said
it properly,
anything.
and he understands. And
Right.
the kid has still potential, and we'll see where this is a turning point for him. We'll see where it goes. So good luck to him.
Don't go to the CFL.
Yeah. Well, maybe he does. Maybe that some guys that's where they have to go. Warren Moon, Kurt, who knows? Like it just
Doug Flutie.
exactly. You never know, but we'll see.
Right.
Again, whatever his football career takes him, I hope it's a good one. Real quick, the NBA started this week. The Knicks are 1-2. They somehow beat the Bucks by 20. Never saw that coming. The Nets are 2-1. Not a lot of big stories at the NBA except for another guy who broke COVID protocols, James Harden, for the Rockets. Again, I just don't know what these guys are doing. I don't know why they don't get it, but
Invincible. I am invincible.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, exactly. From GoldenEye, that's how they feel. But the NBA got kicked off. It's so far so good. But yeah, the Knicks. I thought we would be 0-3, but hey, we're 1-2, so I guess that's a win. I mean, literally and figuratively. So yeah, NBA started. Also, NHL. Lee mentioned this earlier. Henrik Lundqvist, his heart condition actually is now requiring open heart surgery. So this is even more serious than we originally thought. Our prayers and thoughts are with him.
Absolutely. I will say this too. His life is obviously the most important thing. He will be under the care of the best doctors when he has the surgery done. I think while it would be unbelievable for him to come back from this and play, I think we do all have to start wrapping our minds around the fact that his career is over.
Done. Yeah.
I'm saying it pretty definitively. I would not ever expect someone with open heart surgery to come back and play any sport, much less a sport where they're shooting things at his heart.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just NHL fans. I know we wanted to see this, but especially Ranger fans, I know you love Henrik Lundqvist. Capitals fans, I know you wanted Henrik Lundqvist.
Yeah.
I'll say this: you start wrapping your mind around this. That his
we're not going to see him again on the ice. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, it's a sad thing, but yeah, again, our thoughts and prayers, and you know what? It's fortunate that they caught this, whatever it is.
It's fortunate they caught it, and I gotta say this too: his legacy is secure.
It's cemented. Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. We all know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and like I said, imagine if he had played and they didn't know about this. So
yeah.
Anyway,
that's
sad news from the NHL. Just real quick, we'll get into the NHL news next week. A lot of big trades. Tampa Bay, Ottawa made a big trade with Paquette and Brendan Coburn going up there in exchange for a goaltender and Marian Gaborik. That's a pretty big trade in the NHL.
Yeah.
With Tampa Bay clearly trying to repeat, in my mind, finding a way to shake up the culture a little bit, shake up the team a little bit to find some hunger to get back again and win again. So just that's all the NHL news today, but big trade there. I did want to mention that.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot more NHL news coming in the coming weeks.
And the funny thing is that one Tampa Bay team wants to repeat. Another Tampa Bay team does not care at all. We move into baseball very quickly. The Tampa Bay Rays seem to be blowing it up after going to the World Series last year. Charlie Morton went to the Braves. Hunter Renfroe, their outfielder, went to the Red Sox. They traded Nate Lowe, a very highly touted prospect who's looked very good in limited time. First baseman. Obviously, there's a bit of a logjam on the infield for the Rays. He got traded to Texas for prospects. And now the Padres are going all in. They traded 4 prospects to the Cubs for Yu Darvish yesterday, and they traded 4 prospects to the Rays for the Rays ace, Blake Snell. The Padres pitching staff is stacked, folks. They have legitimately 5 number 1 or number 2 starters now as their rotation. But that's a big deal. Padres are dumping their farm system, trying to win now, or at least the next couple of years.
They're close.
And the Rays are already like, we went to the World Series, time to rebuild. So that's happening. Blake Snell, of course, we talked about this very briefly in our personal time. Obviously, there was a rift there between him and the coach Cash after Cash pulled him out of Game 6 of the World Series. He was throwing BBs. He was throwing darts. He was absolutely painting everything, and you pull him at the worst possible time.
I'm going to say what I said to you last night when we were talking about this. There has absolutely have to be no trust there right now between him and his manager. To be pulled out in a dream scenario, you pray for this as a child, to be in the World Series in a position to win a game. And his manager, I don't care what sabermetrics he was using. Yep. If I'm a player, it's you don't trust me in this position, I don't want to be here anymore. Yeah. That's exactly what happened.
We talked about it when it happened. Major loss. And talking about it.
Stupid move by the manager.
Clearly, this feels like this feels like this was the inevitable end
result.
There's
no trust.
Yeah.
How could you ever trust him again?
Yeah. This is the inevitable end result.
You trust your stats more than my ability. I don't want to be here. Yep. I want to be with a team that doesn't look at it like that.
And then you go.
Stupid.
So now he's in San Diego. So.
Right. And again, shame on the Tampa Bay Rays. I will be the first person to rescind this should they become really good again this year and win. But just shame on pulling a Miami Marlins move.
Yeah, I mean, and these prospects could pan
because
out.
Of COVID, trying to boost revenue.
Yeah.
Just trash.
Yeah, these prospects could pan out. Who knows? But right now,
they're trying to lower the costs right now.
Yes.
And and again, small part of me understands it in terms of a business during COVID time. Horrible.
Yeah, no, terrible move by us. I mean, typically a small market team or medium market team maybe, but Tampa Bay, they love cultivating these guys. They win for a short time and then off they go.
Right. Embrace the lightning, Tampa.
Yep.
Embrace the lightning.
Yep.
Ride the lightning.
Yep. There you go. Speaking of riding the lightning, going back to Wonder Woman real quick. This is going to be our question of the week. as we try to wrap up things here, sorry folks, we're kind of blowing through things. I went way too long with Wonder Woman.
No, it's okay. We can do this. This is always like a 5-minute or less segment. This is going to be good. The question of the week this week is really good,
Yes.
and I have got good answers.
So, what geek film do you wish they could remake in a modern form? Something from the 80s or 90s or even earlier, if you prefer. Remake in the modern form and modernize it. Obviously, Wonder Woman had that time travel element and everything. So
right. So I want to give a great example of actually this happening. So Superman 2 Man of Steel is a great original Superman to new Superman transition. It was remade in a modern film. To me, and again, whether you like Man of Steel or not, that was a good job of reintroducing that character in a new way with they completely nailed, I almost said Klingon. They completely nailed Krypton, in my opinion. I love the opening to Man of Steel. Like they redid that really well. Right, and it's the same story as Superman 1 if you really think about it. All right, or 1 and 2 to be fair. Right, same story. So that's an example for me of it actually happening in a good way. Yeah,
no, I mean, I guess the thing I would want to see just really quickly is I mean, the thing that came to me is the movie that Wonder Woman 84 seemed to emulate the most, which is Batman Forever.
Yeah, I'm with you on this.
Like, just remake Batman Forever, remake that, bring that. I mean, obviously you can't do it with Keaton or anything, or but like. I think you had a good idea there with the Riddler and Two-Face, and Schumacher just got in his own way.
Well, this is what's funny about that movie to me. It's actually not that aspect that I wish they would explore. I think the most amazing aspect of Batman Forever
the duality of Batman
was
and
the
Bruce
duality of Batman and Bruce Wayne,
yeah.
which is why the movie's named Batman Forever. He gives a speech at the end, I'm Batman not because I have to be, because I choose to be,
right.
Which is insanely powerful.
Yes.
Insanely powerful. And I love that they were doing that. I love Chase Meridian, the idea of Chase Meridian, which he's a psychologist that's dissecting him and forcing him to think about his childhood. That's something I'd love to see done in a modern way.
Yep.
Right? Chronologically, Star Wars does things out of order, like Yoda speaks. I always joke. That's why we got a really old Luke. You know what's funny? Really quick side note. Really quick. I wanted to say this before. I had a friend of mine say that, Last Jedi Luke makes more sense now that we've seen Luke at the height of his power.
Yes.
I said, yes, but if it was done chronologically, this would have felt so much easier. Anyway, that's a show topic for another time.
So let us know what you guys think below. We're going to have to wrap up because I had a glass of water, a glass of juice, a glass of coffee, and a glass of tea.
Oh, he's got to go.
I have to really go.
Just like us, we got to go.
We got to go. But yeah, we really appreciate everybody tuning in, especially if you made it through the hour-long Wonder Woman segment. We didn't expect that to happen, but I really rambled there, so that's on me.
Okay, I said I wouldn't.
Yeah, there you go. So, for Lee, I'm Ray. Thank you all so much for listening to episode 89. I really got to go to the bathroom.
Ronald Reagan, the actor? I'll close it out. Ray's going to go to the bathroom. Thank you so much for listening to Geeks Who Like Sports. Go to geekswholiksports.com. Find us Geeks Who Like Sports on any podcast platform. Geeks Who Like Sports, Geeks Who Like Sports, Geeks Who Like Sports. Tell your friends about Geeks Who Like Sports. Thank you, everybody. This is Lee Elias for episode 89. I'm Lee. That's Ray. Have a good night, everybody.
See you all next week.